Okay. All right, it is 5:30 on Wednesday, December 10th, and I would like to call to order the Mashpee School Committee Business Meeting for December 10th. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Mashpee Public Schools recognize and honor the many generations of Wampanoag people who live and have been sustained in this territory for more than 10,000 years. Tonight, we have kind of a big agenda, but we got some good stuff on it, so hopefully we'll get through this. But first, we have our consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes from November 5th. To ratify today's agenda, the acceptance of a donation on behalf of Mashpee Public Schools to Cape Kids Meals by the Mashpee Kiwanis, a donation of $1,500 in Stop and Shop gift cards by the Mashpee Kiwanis, and if there is no objection to leaving those on the consent agenda, do we have anyone here who has any of those items that wishes to speak on those items?
I'll just quickly speak to the Kiwanis. So I've been fortunate enough to be welcomed in as a corporate member of the Mashpee Kiwanis. I'm very excited about that. Stacy's very convincing, but they all are. They're a wonderful group to be around. And they donate so generously on behalf of Mashpee Public Schools and to Mashpee Public Schools. So initially, the $1,500 in Stop and Shop gift cards is going to be arriving next week. They actually came yesterday. So we have those in the office, and with Stacy and the help of the counseling team, we will be disseminating them to all three schools. And they have a very specific way that ensures equity and access to those supports. And then just again, donating to Cape Kids Meals in our name is just so wonderful. So we're fortunate to have that partnership.
I agree.
And I'm on their text thread, and that's wonderful.
Well, we are very thankful for our partnership with them. I know it's been long-standing, and I know lots of our kids benefit from that partnership, so thank you. So hearing no other comments on that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Thank you. And a second?
I will second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan?
I vote yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I also am a yes. Thank you. Next, public announcements and agenda item requests. Does anyone on the committee have anything they need to discuss at the next meeting or would like to discuss at the next meeting? Anything? No? Okay. Moving right along. Did anyone sign up for public comment?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Now on to the good stuff. We have some people here in the audience and we're going to be doing some really cool recognitions, and I am very excited to begin with MMHS Junior Max Nash, who is here along with their mother. So, Dr. Connors, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you. So yes, exciting tonight. While it's a long agenda, we always kick it off with all of the best things. So first, I'd like to recognize MMHS Junior Max Nash, who truly embodies our portrait of a graduate. As a member of the Mashpee Inclusion and Diversity Committee and a leader in several school activities, Max is a purposeful communicator and an engaged citizen. Most recently, Max authored an excellent guest column in the Mashpee Enterprise titled "The Other Side of Ageism," a piece that reflects both courage and advocacy. He also represented Mashpee proudly in the interview stage of the Massachusetts United States Youth Program selection process. We're very proud of Max's voice, leadership, and the way they absolutely represent Mashpee. Thank you, Max. In just a minute, we're going to do a big group photo, okay? So thank you for everything. I have a certificate for you, too. So don't warm up your cheeks for the smile. We also, this is like the night of Mashpee Middle High School honors. So we have two seniors, Jack Borowski and Brody Perry. Are both of you here tonight? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yes, oh, I see you there. I also met your Scoutmaster outside of Cape Cod Dog Center. I'm not sure how he knew me. I mean, I did have on a Mashpee sweatshirt, so that might have been it, but he had, Mr. Flynn had emailed me also, so it was a pleasure to meet him face to face. He spoke very highly of you both. Both Jack and Brody are seniors at MMHS. And we're very thankful and would like to honor their recent actions as members of the Boy Scouts of America Troop 36. During a difficult hike in New Hampshire, both Jack and Brody responded when a hiker they came across on the trail was injured. They worked together to assess the situation, provide assistance, and remain with the individual until help arrived. Their quick thinking, calm presence, and readiness to serve others beautifully reflect our Porterville graduate. They demonstrated responsible decision-making, compassion, teamwork, and engaged citizenship in a moment that truly mattered, and I'm sure had an impact on the person that they helped and their family. We're very proud of Jack and Brody for embodying the values we hope to see in all our students and for representing Mashpee with such character and care. So thank you so much. Now if I could get the committee and Max, Brody, and Jack up for a photo. That'd
Want me
be
to say
wonderful.
something?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just move right ahead, Kelly. You gotta just tell me to stop for a minute. Sorry.
With all transparency, Jack and Brody not only waited to assist them, they actually assisted this young woman down a mountain for 2.5 hours in the dark. Coming from scouting and knowing them both, I am tremendously proud as a committee member and as a member of our Mashpee community that such young men as yourselves have that in you, because that you don't find that very many people these days. So from the bottom of my heart to you guys, I am so proud of what you did.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, all right.
All right, if we could get a photo.
Yeah.
Probably
I haven't learned all the names yet, and Brody.
That's Brody.
And
Where are we going?
Oh, over here, yes, sorry.
Congratulations, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job, guys. Oh, look, I'll stand up. I just was, why are you over there?
I'm tall. Tall's the shortest.
Oh, is that what it is?
Then Miss Brady needs to come stand over here with me. Should I do that? This is the short side. I know. Okay.
Which one are we looking at?
The parent one, don't worry.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, it's a pleasure. We're honored that you are ours. I've been for a little while on that. There's too many seats over here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great rest of your night. Okay.
So this next item, Madam Chair, if you would allow me, is not on the agenda purposefully. So I would like to celebrate Chair Kathy Lewis, who was recently named to the All-State School Committee. The All-State School Committee is established to annually recognize significant achievement on part of the local school committee members. This recognition is intended to honor school committee members who, during the previous year, have made a significant contribution to their community or to their school committee, either through specific action or as an inspiration and role model for their peers and constituents. The Massachusetts Association of School Committee Board of Directors annually selects an individual from each division who's been nominated by their local school committee to be recognized as members of the All-State School Committee. Kathy was selected based on the following characteristics. As a school committee member, and I think we'll all agree, she keeps the education and welfare of our children as her primary concern, represents the best interest of all constituents rather than special interest groups, understands the need for compromise and abides by decisions of the majority, has made the time commitment necessary to become an informed and effective school committee member, channels complaints and potential problems to the proper authority, reaches decisions on the merits of issues and on the basis of the best available information, participates in in-service programs at the local, state, or national level, does not individually or unilaterally make commitments on behalf of the entire school committee, is open and honest with other committee members and administrators, shares information and avoids surprises whenever possible, and is familiar with and abides by the Mass Code of Ethics. So I know as superintendent, I am honored to work with you and to work for you. thank you for all you do on behalf of Mashpee Public Schools and the town of Mashpee.
Thank you.
Kelly, would anybody like to, before I jump ahead to the photo op?
So, yes, thank you. It was quite an honor, and I won't hold it against you that you sprung this on me, because
Thank you.
the whole nomination of that was sprung on me also, because we had, as a division, the whole discussion of who we were nominating, and I thought we were nominating someone completely different until I saw my name in the little brochure and went, oh, surprise. So, but yes, thank you. This is an honor and a privilege to serve our students, and this work is very important, and I do hold this role in this chair as a school committee member very highly. So thank you for all of my fellow committee members' support, for great administration, and everybody that I work with here to make sure we're giving Mashpee kids the best shot at whatever they want to do. So thank you. All right.
Surprise.
And I just want to thank Kathy's husband, Mr. Lewis, and her daughter Lily, because we take your mother a lot. She is quite busy on behalf of the school committee, so thank you for letting us have her.
Yes, I should thank them also.
And if we could get a picture with you and the flag,
Sure,
Kathy, thank
sure.
you. And your family also. If we can.
Just don't want to be in the way.
Are they taking the picture over here?
Over there, doesn't matter.
We'll take it wherever you
In front of the screen.
Do all.
Are we out the way here? I love these rolls.
Right?
I know, they're great, aren't they?
We're exercising.
You get a 17.
Yeah. I had a 10.
Oh, I got, that's much, I'm sorry. Thank you again.
You guys could have been on the back, that was perfect. I wouldn't have.
Photo bomb.
We
not
wanted,
have minded.
we wanted to roll the chairs. We would have been like,
All right, back to business.
Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you. Do we have a representative from the tribe? I don't see anyone here, but just wanted to ask before we move on. Okay. Ms. Kira, who is fresh off her acting debut. Congrats, by the way.
congrats.
So, the floor is yours for the Student Advisory Council report.
Okay, so today we finally were able to meet with Miss Brady, which was very exciting. So we went over our survey data that we initially sent out. I think I sort of touched on that last meeting. And we ultimately decided that the reason why we weren't getting that many responses is that we sort of needed to change the mindset about surveys and like to increase the frequency to make them faster and more like actionable. So we plan to send out summaries of the survey findings to keep the student body informed and as a way to let them know that like the work that we're doing and like they have a role in that, because we were saying how oftentimes it can feel like they're constantly filling out surveys without getting any feedback from that, so we wanted to sort of change the narrative in that way. So some updates from that meeting is we ultimately decided that we needed some further surveying as we were only able to get 106 respondents from MHS. And we wanted to dive deeper into more specific issues to create more accuracy in our survey data. Sorry. And so we decided that we would start to brainstorm on ways that we can implement our previous survey feedback to identify improvement areas and use like a check all that apply sort of system. And so we'd have questions based on the initial ones, like some of the main topics that came up were like late buses, homeroom structure, mental and emotional exhaustion. And so we sort of wanted to go deeper into those questions and figure out, you know, like why are students feeling this way? What can we do to better serve students? And to get a greater sense of that. And so we sort of wanted to refine these surveys and ensure that all the responses were free from response-based bias. With like the check all that apply, we were saying how there could be an issue with students just going through the survey or not clicking anything or clicking all of them, and it might not accurately represent all of the students, so we wanted to keep that in mind. And also work with Ms. Brady to avoid any possible question wording bias. As we're humans, we obviously have bias, so ensuring that the questions are what they are, so that way they aren't interpreted in any way by the recipients and they can give their honest answers. So in order to refine the surveys, we plan out to send the first survey in January, and then sort of start a new cycle where we'll have the basic survey in September, usually like we were planning for next year, within like the first 3 weeks, followed by like these quarterly surveys, which we're gonna start to implement this year. And then develop more specific questions to capture more like targeted feedback. And then we also brought up consolidating our information, as that was one of the main topics that we found in the surveys, was students having like issues receiving like the PA systems, which is obviously not really something that we could necessarily fix, or I feel like there's other ways that we could maybe work around that. So one of the things we were saying, which is also like a way to get students more involved in like internships, was to have like presentations of the different like extracurriculars or events going on in the high school on like the TVs. We just need to figure out who's sort of like running those, and so like our team can work on that, and then have students create the slideshows to share with the school, which I feel like that would create some more unity there. And then participation in clubs and activities. Some of the key findings that we had was we wanted to address like the reasons for lower participation rates, and incorporate this in our next survey. And then after talking with Ms. Brady, we heard more about sort of the late bus and how that potentially could be used in our survey data, and to get into more depth with that. And in using like the checkbox survey to gather feedback, as like the lunches were another issue, and then some more specifics which we just want to overall go deeper into, instead of, and we also wanted to implement the surveys to be sort of reflect the NEAS surveys that were sent out, so having them at a specific time, likely during like second block, which I'll get into later. And then we also wanted to address some of the mental health concerns that brought up, which I sort of talked about. And then also this sort of goes into creating a more streamlined system for communication. So finding a way for students to book appointments with guidance counselors, as we were saying that emails can be very stressful for staff, to create it to be more manageable and encourage students to seek out guidance and support. And so we ultimately wanted actionable steps and regular feedback. And so we set some timestamps that we can follow up to January. So as you know, we meet the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, and we were planning on meeting in January with Ms. Brady, likely on the 13th, to go over what specifics we would have in this survey, and then have it finalized by the 22nd and then send it out on the 27th. And then we could try and have like a virtual meeting after the survey, as I know that our student advisory committee meetings have been a little bit difficult. And then some additional updates. We sent out the 3rd to 4th grade and the 5th to 6th grade surveys. I still need to meet with Principal Switzer on that, to sort of go into the same depth that we did with Ms. Brady, which was a really great experience, to go more into the details of like the survey. But I can tell you that for 3rd and 4th grade, we had 145 responses. In 5th and 6th grade, we had 181, which the high school only had 106. So, so yeah, we plan to meet with him, and I'll make sure to include that in my next report or whenever we were able to have that. So those are all my updates for now, if you have any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Kira?
Good
Great.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Kira.
Looking
Yeah,
forward
That's
to that information. And we will definitely be talking about a possible virtual student advisory committee, school committee meeting, just because we have had some hiccups in getting that those mandatory meetings on. So we will be in touch. Okay, Dr. Connors, we are at report and recommendations of the superintendent. So
Yes, so I just have a couple of more highlights that I wanted to share before I turn it over to Lindsay, Stacy, and Matt for their presentation. If I may, I think it's continue to highlight all the amazing things happening in Mashpee, and I wanted to acknowledge Jennifer Amento, who's not with us this evening. She is an educator of ours at Quashnet and was also published in the Mashpee Enterprise with a guest commentary titled "Time to Extinguish Our 5-Alarm Literacy Crisis." Ms. Amento is not only one of our educators, but she also is a Teach Plus Massachusetts Policy Fellow and does statewide work and conversation around literacy, which fits in beautifully with the work that we're doing here in Mashpee Public Schools, and as you'll see later on, and of even my own goal with a focus on early literacy. So I just wanted to give her a shout out if you didn't see. It was a very interesting article, guest commentary to read, so I appreciate her advocacy for that and that she is ours. Our vernal pool, which I think you first heard about in the spring, had its inaugural dig. Well, we won't show the time lapse. Oh, well. So I was able to get up there on one of the, I think on the 17th, it was cold and windy. And our students, I know Lily was there, it was cold and windy, but they were out there. Look at the smiles on their faces. They are certainly much more resilient than I am. And the project with our teachers, Ms. Vitelli, Dr. Soares, their guidance and support and working with the students really embodies our Mashpee Portrait of a Graduate, the qualities of engaged citizens. Again, they're working together as a community, demonstrating care for our natural world. The purpose being purposeful communicators and collaborators through the shared design and installation and documentation of the process. We're very excited to maybe have an opening day, if you will, in the spring when it's nice and green and we have some of the flora and fauna there, the macroinvertebrates, try saying that 3 times, fairy shrimp, which I'm very interested in learning more about, wood frogs and salamanders in the spring. So great work for the team there. A couple of days later, I was able to attend Tension and Release, which was a peer performance by our student musicians. And when I tell you I left truly inspired, it was an understatement. I didn't know how much I needed to be there, fully immersed in their talent, until I was there in that moment. It was incredibly powerful. The confidence, the focus, the real respect for one another, both on stage and as members of the audience, was like nothing I've ever experienced. It was absolutely amazing. The way they put themselves out there in front of their peers to perform as members of the audience. It's one thing when you're on stage working together in a band or in a chorus, but when you're performing for your peers, it's that, and you know it's just your peers in the audience, it has a different feeling. They are proud and confident and truly connected to one another, and it was just truly a pleasure to be able to be there. I look forward to future performances. In November, Mashpee Public Schools partnered, as did many other departments and organizations across the town, but we're very proud of our work across our schools and partnering with the rec department in Fill the Van. Is it gonna? It's great music. And
Sherry,
so,
can you make it bigger in the bottom right? Sorry. Oh, next
there you
to
go.
Thank you. All right.
Why isn't it? Oh, there we go. And so each of our schools participated,
Do you see familiar
they're
faces
very
there?
excited. This is the Early Learning
Oh,
Center, I
littles.
believe.
Look at them. Oh, my God.
Oh, little sneeze, yeah.
Oh, God bless you.
So I have to give a huge shout out to the KC Coombs. They crushed it. They were the winners and filled the van the most of our 3 schools. They did a fabulous job and we're very excited. As they were doing this, we were getting ready to count, the Quashnet School Council asked me to come over. They had a very good question and something I did not think about this year, but we will think about in the future as we do this. if they bought a bulk pack of 72 toothbrushes, does the pack count as one? Or is it 72 items? They're very competitive at the Quashnet, which I greatly appreciate. Does the box of trash bags count as one or 40 bags? And I said, let's count every individual thing. Go right ahead. And Coombe still won, and they did the same. They ended up on their own deciding to count individually. So it was that great spirit. And there's Charlie. There's Charlie.
So excited.
Yep. There's central office team. We all participated too.
Did we count each paper towel?
We did not count each paper towel.
Each row?
No, we just kind of participated. There I am talking business about who knows what, you know. And there's our Quashnet group. It's so great to see the community come together, see our schools come together to support the community as a whole. Here we are, coming up to MMHS. Oh, I thought it was a shopping cart. Oh, there's the shopping cart. That's what you collected it in. For some reason, thought you were pushing the shopping cart out. Yes. No. There we go. Thank you.
All right, Miss Brady, you're on the hook for next year. The little ones beat you.
Well, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
If anybody's gonna beat me,
Right,
I love
right.
that it's a pre-K through.
Yes, yes. So the next challenge I've thrown out to the 3 schools is partnering with the Boys and Girls Club of Cape Cod in their Toys for Cape Kids drive. And so the schools are now in the process of collecting toys to give to the Boys and Girls Club to support their drive. And of course, any toys that, you know, they will gladly, willingly accept, but some of the they get a lot of Barbies, as you can imagine, a lot of some of the same things, so some different things. If you're thinking of donating, they were gave us nice enough to give us kind of a list of some things: Play-Doh, Paw Patrol, Lego sets. I asked my daughter if I could give up some of hers, and that didn't go over very well. So, but Quashnet has thrown down the gauntlet already. They are already working on that, so they are destined to win. But it's, again, great community building, and then just everyone is always so supportive of the schools, and it feels great as schools to be able to give back to the community. On Friday, I was honored to be able to sit and just take in The Outsiders. When I tell you the talent on that stage was beyond amazing. When you have 16 different characters in The Outsiders, played by only 11 people, I wouldn't have been able to keep my line straight. Lily, who's in our audience, was there, played two, right, Lily? Yeah. Two different characters. Kira, as we know, made her stage debut as Marcia, and it was just phenomenal. I was able to get backstage and say, please take a selfie with me because you guys are amazing. The stage crew, the transitions were seamless. So oftentimes the stage crew, because they're just that behind the scenes, don't get recognized, but without them, we all know that this couldn't have been possible. I want to thank Miss Reynolds, Mr. Zuaro, and Mr. Burrows, who had a walk-on part as well. It was truly fabulous. The musical Little Shop of Horrors is March 27th to 28th, so mark your calendars, because it's destined to be amazing. Is that it? I know, I've rearranged that. I thought there was one more, but it might be later in the presentation. I've rearranged my slides so many times. It's fine.
That's one more.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, there we go. And upcoming events. So this Saturday, is the Season of Illumination Parade. This year's theme is Coastal Cheer. I don't think it's supposed to be frigid. It won't be maybe as warm as today, but that should be great. It kicks off at 6 o'clock from Mashpee Commons. And MMHS is partnering or for Cape Cod Healthcare has a blood drive December 19th. While there's always a need for blood donations, there seems to be a greater need during the holiday season. So if you're available from 8 to 2 on the 19th, right, it's still the 19th, it's on the calendar, just double checked. Then please donate blood. Okay, and now I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay Kett, Stacy Shakel, and Mr. Matt Treveri. Mr. Treveri, I almost didn't recognize you. Expected like the blue quarter zip. I like it. I like the blue tie.
Should we just wheelchair?
You can, yes, roll up some chairs, yes. You're a very coordinated bunch.
I was
like
gonna
it.
say, I'm like,
Yes.
Look at, they all
Match
match.
blue,
in the
like-
middle.
It's like we're news anchors.
Right, absolutely.
Matching up for the day. The weather today will be.
Yes.
Be honest. So honest.
And so this presentation on substance use prevention, mental health supports, Mr. Rodriguez, you had asked us to bring the team together and share. You had some very specific questions for us and some information you were looking for. So we tossed it to the team and they worked together and are here before you tonight.
Thank you.
So it's a 29-slide presentation, so we won't read them all in the effort of time, but there are some links that are in there in regards to curriculum and different things. Do you want us to introduce ourselves first?
Might as well.
Yeah.
I'm Stacy Stockel, school nurse at Casey Coons, and district nurse coordinator.
Lindsay Katz, school counseling director.
Matt Treveri, head of health, physical education, wellness, grade 7 to 12. And Molly Career is also here. She's a pretty good handle of curriculum. She was a 7th grade wellness teacher health and wellness teacher for 3 years, and now it's 9th grade, so she's a full grasp of the curriculum for us.
So for us overall, we use a wide range of different ways to implement mental health and wellness programs. One of them is through SEL, which you'll find throughout the district. It is embedded throughout the district. Thankfully, we've been doing that for a long time. Fun fact too is the SEL skills that are focused on pre-K through 12, think social awareness, self-awareness, self-management, healthy relationship building, and overall relationship building and healthy decision making. Those are all also the top employee skills now that employers are looking for. So it's lovely that we have a chance to focus on all that through the years and then also have our students ready for employability skills when they leave. So that's something that's embedded throughout all the schools. And for those of you who have been here for a long time, you know that about Mashpee, right? SEL overall. So one thing that we focus on, and I was gonna some of the slides you'll see in regards to the social emotional aspect, is the different curriculum we may use. So you'll see second step, think kids, mindfulness, zones of regulation, a lot around emotions and learning how to talk about your emotions and discuss your emotions. You know, right now there's a lot going on in society and a lot of students are feeling it and a lot of adults are feeling it. And one of the most important thing is that sense of belonging in schools and also the feeling of safety, not just physical safety, but emotional safety and having trusted adults in the building to talk to. So you'll see through the slides the different SEL programs that we offer. And there's different things like No Place for Hate, guided lessons. We do have PBIS throughout the different schools. So again, in an effort of time, we'll kind of skip to what we're doing in regards to curriculum overall for substance use prevention. Do you want to say that one? So if you move down to
Should we go to the slide?
Yeah.
Move on.
Nope, there you go. Let's start with them.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back?
I think you could move one more ahead.
Ahead.
Nope, ahead. There you go, right there, some of the help on this.
So I think it's a combination of our health and wellness teachers work with our guidance department in unison on a lot of these topics. Our curriculum was upgraded. We actually got lucky as we moved into a new curriculum. It was in unison with the standard changing from the state. It took the state roughly 8 years to figure out what that health and wellness curriculum is going to look like. There were many, many steps into it, so as they changed over sort of their scope and sequence and what their units look like, we changed our curriculum over. We use Health Smart as our primary 7 to 9 curriculum for prevention lessons and all of the lessons that go with the state standards. We also use, we also use a couple other ones that we've had since 2020. GW is one of our providers as well in terms of materials. They're all state, they all are national standard based, they're all state standard based. And I think the biggest thing for us is, that we get our kids into high school in 7th grade. We've worked with Mr. Switzer when they brought a new person on to help with their physical education and health and wellness at the Quashnet School. One of the great things he did was bring us down to meet and try to get that sort of vertical alignment between the Quashnet School and the high school as relates to curriculum. So we bring outside people in. You can see a couple of the examples here on the previous slide. We'll bring people in from the outside as well as part of our curriculum to teach about substance prevention.
Gosnold, Emerson. We've also had partnered with the Army for
United States
the,
Army, yes,
For
for trunk driving, demonstrations, outside speech in Gosnell. I think all these things are powerful for kids. It gets tougher now. It starts earlier and earlier. I think that's the concern, obviously, of ours. We get kids in 7th grade, and those gateway behaviors are earlier and earlier. And our biggest thing for them is to make sure that we hit every one of our kids in 7th grade, 8th grade, and by 9th grade, every kid takes wellness. And then after that, we potentially can take contemporary health issues, which touches on some of these issues. But we're trying to hit those kids in those years, 12 to 15, 12 to 16, where we're concerned about what kids are doing, emotional states, and obviously substance abuse and substance use.
and also in 7th and 9th grade, we also administer to all students the SBIRT. Did you want to speak a little bit about
Sure.
the SBIRT?
So in one of the slides, Sherry, in front of my head, we did administer, so that's a combination screening that, I have the slide up. Thank you. Screening for brief interruption. I am not the most intervention and referral to treatment. So we had in 7th grade, 83 students were screened, 3 opted out. And then in grade 9, 87 students, 2 were screened in and 2, I carried my stuff, 2 were in and no one opted out. So that was conducted in a partnership with Jen Gar-Palumbo, our school nurse at the high school, and the guidance team. And actually, kids are really good about doing it. They also get some resources and cards. And then if there's any additional supports that they may need. And it's actually run quite well. The guidance and health services at the high school work collaboratively.
Sorry, can I interrupt for a quick question on that? So the results of those screenings, do they stay in-house or are they reported to
They're
DESE?
reported to the state.
Okay.
Yep.
To the, just to DESE, or do they go to like health, like this, does it just go to the DESE?
So it's the DESE web portal and Department of Public Health.
Okay,
they'll be
so
on
it goes to both.
Correct,
Okay.
Master Department of Public Health, correct.
Thank you.
We try to do ours earlier in the year so that we make sure we connect people who need that.
So that was November 13th and 14th. We used to do it a little later in the year. We felt moving it forward would help exactly to catch the students a little bit earlier before we got into the holiday season, kind of that midway point of first quarter where you really start to settle into school. So that's something that seems to be working better is at that time.
Sorry, follow-up question that just popped in my head. So when you report that, do we as a district get do we get?
Correct, it's all on the.
It's all on the website, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes. And it's due to the state for June 30th, but we may have already submitted ours.
I have no problem with that, as long as we're doing it. Okay, great, thank you.
So there was a lot of information in these slides, and we just want to make sure we're answering your questions. There's a lot of partnerships we have. I do have numbers regarding referrals that we might do out. school-based counseling that we've had in the past and hope to have again. So we can open it up to questions or keep just kind of going through the slides. It's really whatever works for you.
Anyone have a preference?
I'm always riddled with questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's keep going, and if you don't mind us like raising our hand with a question when we have one, if that's working for
Sure.
everybody. Kelly, Brian, you okay with that? Okay.
So we're on prevention and prevention. Sure, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, part of our initiative, we did twice, we did the YRBS, which the MYRBS is the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. Last year, I sent those findings to the Assistant Superintendent. I'm not sure if she shared those. We did also, I believe, in 2015. It's very in-depth. There's not only, do you have to have pre-screening for it before you take it. We were lucky enough, I think we had 80% or 85% of all our kids ended up taking it, so we got really good results. It's broken down in every subcategory you can think of. And then there's also post meetings for this as well. So you can go over the numbers, the percentages, ask questions of the state. And I think it was a really in-depth process. The numbers give you a pretty good window of things such as substance use in our schools, sexuality in our schools, suicidality, depression issues, mental health. These are all questions that are in there. It's broken down, like I say, by subcategories. It's a driver for our curriculum, and I think it helped us get a pretty good window into what we need to shape, focus on, and expand when we get our student responses. So those links are there underneath there as well. Gives you kind of the list of questions, and you'll see the categories broken down as well. So for us, it was a terrific insight into our students' behaviors. I thought the kids took it very seriously. As you read the data, went over with the state, they kind of, give you that impression that the kids did a good job with it, that there's an honest look at it. But I think in future years, it's something we're also going to look at, continue just to kind of get an idea of where our kids are in the community and with the issues that we teach every day.
And that data was also shared out. I also am part of the Mashpee Substance Use Task Force. I work with the town and Gail Wilson and who's provost for Boys and Girls Club. So like how the Boys and Girls Club is looking to have their teen center and how we can support them. So the data is not just kind of stuck in-house. It's actually being used and observed by our community and also with Falmouth because, as you know, just because we're in Falmouth and there's no real town line, everybody works together, and same with Barnstable. So just a good collaborative approach. So the results are on those links.
Just on that, with the opioid settlement funds that are coming, Mashpee was awarded some. Are we, as a school district, we received some of them as the district, correct? And we're putting them back into these, or am I remembering something differently?
I can't speak to exactly what schools
Yep.
got, but Gail Wilson and the town, I believe the Substance Use Task Force wrote all that. I didn't see
Okay.
any direct funding come to schools from
I didn't
that.
think so either. I just wanted to confirm and just,
My understanding is
ask.
it didn't come directly to the schools. It went to community partners who applied, and then the next round just opened, and I don't know who, I think. don't
so I
wanna
guess
speak
I
for
look to the
dates.
three of you. Do we need to ask for money? Like, should we be asking for money to help
The
support?
way the money and the settlement funds work, there were preset criteria.
Yep.
So my understanding is I'm not sure that we would be eligible in
Okay.
the criteria from at least the round that went out. I know there's another round coming out in January.
Okay.
Haven't seen that released yet, but I'll make myself a note and follow up.
I was just gonna say, I mean, if they can help with
Yeah.
what you're all working towards and what our goal,
And being steeped in the opioid settlement conversations, I think, the 4 buckets that Stacy is speaking about is prevention, education, harm reduction, treatment, and then I'm blanking on the last category. But I think it needs to be an intervention that is either not currently available or there is a gap in funding for.
Okay.
So if there is something I think that the district would like to do that would advance the resources that are available to students, that it's not gonna be supplementary funding for something that already exists.
No, I understand. I understood that. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that, if there was a gap or you perceived there a place to, implement something we don't already implement, like, should we be keeping our eyes on those 4 buckets? And
Yep.
I'm blanking on that 4th one also, because I remembered all those 3, but that's why I was thinking prevention, and I'm like, I know we upped our vaping prevention, but is there something else that we should be looking toward and where you guys are on the front line, so to speak, you know.
Also part of the prevention work group through the county, I forget, a few different hats. So we did funding and brought it to Trish, I know you were bringing it to people, and Mr. Switzer. There's a grade 3 through 6 curriculum, because as Matt has shared and that we've seen, we need to bring our education and curriculum down to grades 3 through 6. So it is through Botvid Life Skills. It is a research-based program. I'll be honest with you, I've been teaching the adult part for a long time, so I am biased because I like it. But the student part is really awesome. So we're in the process right now of educating providers through the county to come in, because one of the things, and you'll see in our presentation, is staffing to do these programs. So opioid funding could be used to supplement training in people. So I'm actually one of the trainers outside of school time, working on training people to be able to come into our schools and do that. And that is being paid for by the opioid abatement funding. So it is being used, I forget, sorry.
It's okay, as long as it's on our radar. I guess I just want to make
Yeah, it
sure
is on
we're
the
all
radar.
like on the radar with that one. And yeah, sorry.
Can I ask kind of a somewhat related question? So I know the Massachusetts School Counselor Association evaluation that we received in June called out one of our major gaps being that Tier 1 prevention curriculum, and highly recommended that we have a pre-K to 12 vertical alignment for mental health and substance use prevention. Is that an area that is still a gap?
I would say so, yes. I think it's something we need to do. We administer DESA, which is Universal Tier 1 to all students.
That's just a
The
screener.
Denver
That's not
screening,
a
right.
curriculum,
It's not
though.
the curriculum, though. So that's, could be something that we look at as a team, to look straight, absolutely. There are some things that we do throughout the district, but for example, we don't do second step up at the high school level. There is a middle school version, and there's an elementary school version, but there's not the high school version. So those are definitely areas that we could look at for sure.
Because I don't think it doesn't necessarily, I think an SEL curriculum, pre-K to 12, it could be second step at Quashnet, it could be
Right.
ruler at MMHS, for example. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if that's
Well,
the
we did
actual
have
one.
that
But
at one
I was going to
point.
say we had ruler.
We had
Okay,
ruler in
yeah.
our
So
department.
as long,
Yeah.
but as long as we've got a pre-K to 12,
Yes.
that is vertically aligned, even though they're separate.
So second steps is at Casey Coombs, and we're,
Okay,
we're
okay.
going over, because there's a new version out and stuff, but we are, it's always been there, but we're tightening that up.
Okay.
And again, that does cover the social, emotional, healthy choices, talking about sleep, wellness, all of those.
Okay.
And you'll see at the end of the slide, focus on having some health curriculum or health person, personally, like a full-time at Quash, so there's already half-time, so a full-time and a half-time maybe at Coombs, to bring in more of those health and wellness things is probably another area of a gap that moving forward would help cover some of that. But then we are doing, the second steps is what the program we're using right now.
And I would say yes to what you asked. We do need to look at that. There is a heightened focus, and we do need to align and make sure it's implemented intentionally throughout the district.
Absolutely, almost
100%.
as important as English and
Absolutely.
like literacy
I love
and
it.
math.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That would
And
be wonderful.
I think part of the area of concern is, for example, the way our structures currently are, and this cannot happen, we're not going to change it overnight, but something for us to be aware of is, for example, like Matt, your purview is 7 through 12, right, when it comes to health and wellness. But we have health and wellness teachers at the Coombs and at the Quashnet. And so how do we ensure they're getting what they need to, like everybody? We are truly, it's not just a curriculum that's vertical, but the support for educators in implementing that curriculum. There's also vertical alignment there too.
That would be wonderful. And that partnership, in Mashpee, I feel like we're small but mighty. There's a lot that goes
Absolutely,
on, and
yes.
we do a lot in
Yep.
Mashpee. But that is so important to revisit, and the partnerships are fluid. The counselors do work. Thankfully, it's a team here. Otherwise, we couldn't do this work.
Right.
And to be able to do that and align it and really do it with a lot of eyes on it, and be able to really implement it again with intention and make sure it's something consistent that we're driving forward would be wonderful. All for it.
I think to that piece, really my focus is the early intervention, and realizing that with the tribe, teaching the kids their culture from a young age helps us. and I don't really see cultural components in some of these curriculums. And given that, we do live in a diverse community, I would be interested to see, what is out there and what best practices for different demographics. That's one of the things. I think I kind of jumped to the end with the summaries and kind of what you're saying that we would need to kind of help along with this work. But I was also interested in the student to counselor ratios, because it looks like some of them maybe have like 3, grades with them, whereas KCC has 2, and we have a little bit more at the high school, which I can understand that. But back to that piece, with the early intervention, I guess my question is, after hearing the staffing issues, what positions do you feel we need? Because the recommendation in here is to hire more school nurses, but would it be more school nurses versus counselors, or like what is, I guess, like?
I'm always for more school counselors and nurses, but I can tell you the ratios. Right now at MMHS, there's 4 school counselors. 2 are school guidance counselors, 2 are school adjustment counselors. If you divide by 4, the total number of students we have, 556, it would be 139 each student, if you just look at it that way.
Okay.
But again, school adjustment and school counselor, or guidance counselors, people refer to them, are paired, and one really focuses on that more of future planning, grades, courses, scheduling, and then there's that more adjustment component, which is more that therapeutic counseling end. At Quashnet School, we have 3 counselors, and Quashnet has approximately 429 students. That's about 143 students for each counselor. So the ratio is manageable. I would love to say we need more, because the need is higher even though the numbers are lower, just because of what's happening within our world and society. But overall, as a team, a more support staff and we work together is beneficial. And then at KCC, currently right now we have 382 students. Between 2 counselors, it would be 191 students at each assigned ratio. In the MASC world, ratio for counselor to student, anything 1 counselor to 250 students, you're hitting the target. So we're below that. So for me to sit here and say, we need more counselors, personally, I do think we need more counselors because of again, numbers are lower but needs higher. However, there's need in other places, so that's where as a team it really works out. So you might want to
And
speak
that's
to
the 1
nursing.
to 250 for nurses, so at our high school, we do have our float nurse, so we have, right now this year, made it so that it's 1.5-ish, but they also have to, she also has to cover our lunches and contractual obligations and meetings and things, so we're not meeting those ratios, really, completely at our school.
And if I could just chime in too, I do not believe, and you'll hear me say it over and over, throwing people at a problem isn't gonna fix it. It's not. We need to build up our systems and strengthen our systems and structures here in Mashpee. We have a phenomenal foundation, small but mighty, to use your words, Ms. Kett, but we do, it's funny, as you were talking about the ratios, I'm like, acceptable ratios, 1 to 250.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
And I think also looking at the licensures that people are holding, right? As in my former district, we had school counselors, who the academic side, and we had school adjustment counselors, which was licensed mental health, right? And so looking at what is the licensure that people have in place, what positions do we have already? How do we work to reallocate resources to better meet the needs of our students? And because just like you were saying, while our numbers, enrollment may be declining across all districts on the Cape, the needs of our students are increasing, the population of students. And so there are certainly things for us to look at moving forward. Absolutely.
And you'll see just health office visits. I mean, we've had 71 behavioral health in 67 days. That's a huge increase. I mean, for the whole school year last year, it was under 140. So, and we've only been in school for 2 months. So,
Who sets the numbers for the standards? Is it the state?
For the ratios?
Yes.
It's the
professional
it's
organizations.
the professional organization that sets it.
Because not for nothing, I'm looking at the numbers, and to have one person responsible for the social emotional health of 139 people, to me is baffling. So how are we knowing that all 139 of those students that the counselor is responsible for is taking care of their needs? The same with the nurses. You have one nurse in a school or 1.5 nurses in a school with 500 kids. You know, the flu's going on. You're gonna have the line of kids down the hallway because we don't have enough staffing to take care of that. In the world we live in today, these numbers, just like I said, they baffle me. And I was just wondering where they come from, because that, to me, I couldn't handle 140 kids,
Well,
and I handle a lot.
on
So,
the plus side, you're not seeing all of them, right? I mean, you're keeping track of who's, I mean, you have students that you know specifically, right? I mean, yes, Kelly, to your point, I think it is a lot of students, but thankfully not all of them are requiring services, I guess is how I'm looking at it. I mean, God forbid they all do need services at one point. I guess I just.
but they should all have the same opportunity. So if you have,
Oh, I
let's
agree.
say, 70 out of the 139 that are taking up 95% of that adjustment counselor or guidance counselor's time, what are the other half of the kids supposed to do?
Nope, I understand what you're saying.
That's wonderful questions, yes.
Yep.
And that's also, though, where a pre-K to 12 vertical curriculum and alignment as a prevention method helps, right? It's that level of support. I would like to come up with a witty analogy, and I can't. But that's where you start first. Foundationally, do we have a prevention curriculum, an educational prevention curriculum in place? That's your foundation. And then are we screening to really see how do we start to kind of prioritize those students who are demonstrating the highest risk or highest need, target them? And then what supports do you have in place for the next year and the next year and to do that? And that helps you. It doesn't solve the problem, but at least helps us address, to your point, like you've got 70 kids who are taking up 95% of your time. What about all these others? How do we work to triage, if you will, and make sure we're meeting their needs and that we're aware?
We partner with a lot of providers outside of the district as well, and oftentimes they'll come into the district. So not only when we have school-based counseling, that's contractual with the district, we also have individual counselors who, if the student cannot meet their counselor or their therapist outside of school, I should say therapist because it's a therapist, not a counselor, the therapist, then that therapist per family parent agreement with the school can come into the building and see the student. Because if transportation's a barrier, that's a concern. If part of the student's concern is, you know, they go to counseling with their therapist and then they have to get in the car and they had just been in counseling and the counseling is all about kind of what's going on in the home and now they're in their car talking about it, that's hard. So we want to make sure that we're breaking down some barriers so students are receiving the services that they have. So a lot of the partnerships that we have, you'll see a full list of them. Are they behind us?
Yep.
There you go, a full list of them. We really, I feel our school that is very welcoming and open to that and we're grateful for that because otherwise this work would be unmanageable. It's unmanageable for, and when you think about it, what is it, 2, 4, 7, 9 counselors, you know, that's a lot. But again, it's, although the numbers are lower, the need is higher. And you'll see that across the board, even with, when you stop and think about hospitalization. Oftentimes there's not beds available. Students go weeks. Sometimes we have students who are sitting in ERs, you know, waiting for a bed. It's hard. And what we want to do is create an environment that really they feel that emotional safety at school and seeing as much as we can provide them. I mean, there's some things in school you just can't provide. But what can we do with what we have, so.
Thank you.
Dan?
Right. Well, I will do my best to keep it short because I know we have a packed agenda. But I really like that framing, Dr. Connors, about where to begin with the foundation and the screening. I think one area that stuck out with me, and I apologize if I was unaware of this, but the SBIRT just happening at 7th and 9th grade seems.
That's a state requirement,
State
those are the grades.
Yeah.
Correct.
So-
So I guess there's a difference between requirement and, per se, best practice, right? So in an ideal world, we would be doing SBIRTs more often, but what we're required to do is just the 7 to 9, correct?
And the way the screening and program is set up, you want to have that gap. So either 7 and 9 or 10 and, no, 9, 7 and 9, it has to be, or 8 and 10, I'm
Right,
sorry.
right.
Okay.
So those are the, because of the way the questions are worded and where you get your data. This district made a switch, we used to do 8 and 10, but we went 7 and 9 so that we could try to be a little proactive and preventative and early
Yep.
screening.
Right, and just as a reminder, the SBIRT is a self-disclosure assessment, right? So it's whatever the person is willing to share in that moment. And I guess as we look at how that translates out to our adult population, you know, what we hear consistently across the region in Cape is early use starts anywhere between 12 years of age to 15, and it goes unnoticed until they have aged out of school, and then their progression of substance use really intensifies into their early 20s, and that's when they get treatment for the first time. Not that our district is the keeper of all of this, but figuring out ways in which we can screen our students more frequently and create spaces to be able to promote open dialogues about substance use and mental health, I think is really pivotal to changing the tide with what we're seeing with our substance use trends on Cape and Islands. So just putting that out there.
And that is the basis of that 3 through 6 curriculum with Botman,
Yeah.
is to bring that conversation, bring that awareness, bring that education, and move that forward.
Okay. The other thing that stuck out with me is I really love the SEL framework of being able to provide that knowledge and skill set and have those conversations. How then it translates into practice outside of those learning opportunities, I think is where I've seen a little bit of a rub. I'll use a personal example of having children in Quashnet where they're receiving really great curriculum around this. But then what I call like the pain points of lunches and recess and less structured environments is where a lot of those behaviors continue, transactionally between students, and there isn't really a good envelope or framework to like support that. So I will share, having had a child who has said, I've been on the playground and this thing behaviorally has played out. They've gone to a para or to someone else who's just said like, mind your business or stay out of that problem. I mean, like, it just doesn't translate from what's being taught to then what's happening in practice. So I bring that up in a sense of ensuring that as we have this curriculum for our students, I think that reinforcing how we promote that, from K to 12, and each staff member coming in from a trauma-informed lens and being able to actually like do the work that's necessary. I think that could be a perspective gap area as well. So just framing that. And then Brian, you took kind of the words out of my mouth with regard to the cultural competency piece of things. Thinking of our tribal community and, some of, their practices, but also thinking of our Hispanic and non-English speaking communities where you don't talk about mental health the way that we traditionally talk about mental health. Being able to ensure that there are opportunities for those community members to be able to fully receive what's being provided and for their families to have that as well. Is important, and then my rant will be over in a moment. There's also a reduction in resources. I just heard that I think we're losing our in-school therapy group, if I recall.
No.
No, I'll let you answer it.
Okay.
So we were previously with Gosnold, Stepping Stones, I think bought them out, took them over.
Yeah.
We were just recently notified that Stepping Stones is leaving Massachusetts. So we have met, we brought the team together to talk to Stepping Stones about the transition. And in the meantime, we have met, and when I say we, Trish and team, with Cartwheel, which is an organization I learned about at the MASC conference. They're doing a great deal of work with Fall River, and I was really keen on what they had to offer. And Lindsay also introduced us to Beacon of Hope. And so we absolutely have a transition plan in place, so there'll be no gap.
Okay.
For our
Thank you.
students.
Thank you for that.
Of course.
But the reason why I wanted to bring that up is
Yeah.
because I think that what we see a lot here, especially on Cape, is having community providers who are very well intended, but then there can be transitions, gaps, mergers, whatever, so that continuity across time gets lost. And what that translates out to is a loss for our students and their families. So, I think that comes back to the question of, is this something that we partner on, or is this something that we try to build internally in some capacity? Because at least you can control what you can control. So just throwing that out there as we think about future opportunities for strengthening the resources for our families and our students.
Absolutely.
I'm just so happy we're all talking about this world. It's so needed. It's so important to have this discussion and be able to put this at the forefront of so much of education, you know, because for so long, SEL was one of those components that was like, it comes out of the counselor's office. It's like, it doesn't, it's the whole school. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
It's definitely the whole school, and it takes 3 leaders such as yourself to do this, to lead and guide this work. It's not central office that does it. It is truly you all, and your presentation tonight is an example of that, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? But thank you again for the presentation. I just want to echo your sentiment. You know, I think all of us up here firmly believe that students who feel safe emotionally, physically, and like mentally are there, are able to learn. So what you all are doing is crucial. So thank you. Appreciate the information, and we'll see what we can do to help keeping this at the front of the conversation, because it's needed.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
happy
Thank you so
holidays.
much, thank you.
Quick question though, Brian, just before that, you mentioned, does the Weetwam School, do they do SEL programs that we could talk to the tribal education department and see like what do they implement any SEL program? I mean, they might not.
Yeah, we can talk to Natana.
Okay, just because
That'd be
maybe we can
awesome.
reach
I'd
out.
love to learn.
I'm just curious, like, because they do have their curriculum and it's pre-K to 6, 5, 5th or 6th grade, I think.
I think it's going up to 6, yeah.
Yeah, so they must implement some pieces of that, I would imagine. Just was a curious
Yeah,
question I
great
had that popped up.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right.
All right, I think, Sherry, is Trish's presentation separate? Okay. Oh, look at you, fancy,
I know, she's
linked
so
it.
I'm so smart, I don't know what I'm doing.
So good evening. I'm going to be talking to you tonight about MCAS 2025 results and going into a little bit more depth. A couple of meetings ago, we talked about the general accountability data. Today, we're going to take a deeper look into both the achievement and the progress that the schools are making, and kind of linking that to the steps that we're taking as a district this year and beyond. So the way I wanted to start, because I'm very aware of the fact that not only do we have all of you who are watching this tonight, but we also have an audience at home who may not be as well versed in this as you are. So I want to start with some common understandings, and then we'll go into some strengths of the outcomes of the 2025 test. We'll look at areas for growth. Then we'll kind of do a deep dive into some of our subgroups to kind of bring forward some areas that we need to shore up. And then we're going to be talking about how it connects to current initiatives, things that we're working on this year, and also things that we need to start considering for the future. So Sherry, if we could go to the next one. So in this slide, I want to start with some common understandings. So there's 4 critical understandings that I wanted to focus on. First, MCAS is the state's comprehensive assessment system. It tests students annually in grades 3 through 8, and then again in grades 10 in ELA and math each year. Science is assessed in grades 5, 8, and 10. And this year, we piloted, not just we, but across the Commonwealth, a civics test in grade 8. The second one that I want to talk about is that MCAS really is a single snapshot in time. And it's obviously a very important snapshot, but it's one measure of success. It's not the complete picture of what our students know and can be and are able to do. But it gives us a lot of information that we can use to help improve our structures, that can help us improve teaching and learning for students. The next is if you could go back to that slide. That's okay. Is that we'll be talking a lot about student growth percentile, which is one data point that helps us look at students and helps us to see the pace of growth that happens from year to year. So it compares them to other students who scored the same as they did and looks at how did those students progress and gives students a number. We're looking for something in the range of the 50th percentile would mean that students are growing at an average rate compared to their peers. And then finally, one of the things that I think often gets overlooked when we talk about the MCAS because of the emphasis statewide on the MCAS is that it is, not every grade is tested, not every subject area is tested, but most importantly, it doesn't give us information on a lot of the things that we value most about students. When we think about our portrait of the graduate, that document really focuses on things that we want students to be able to do that aren't tested on this test. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind, that it's one measurement, it's an important one, but it doesn't tell the whole story of every student. And that's why we do multiple data points. That is why we value other things other than the MCAS, because we want to see the entire student, okay? So you'll hear me talk about certain key terms, and again, I apologize to the committee because I think you have a deeper understanding than perhaps maybe some people who are watching at home who don't see these presentations every single year. But a few key things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. We'll talk about achievement ratings. The test is scored into 4 categories: exceeding, meeting, partially meeting, and not meeting. You'll hear the term scaled score. Those numbers range from 440 up to 560. Student SGP, or student growth percentile, is that one I referenced before. It is a measurement where you look at how the students scored the year before. So for example, if they scored a 500, they look at every kid in that grade level who scored a 500 and they see how they progressed the following year to see how much they're growing. Subgroups is another term that you're going to hear me reference today. We get information back from the state based on the number of students we have in a subgroup. We have more subgroups than you'll hear about tonight, but the state only gives us information if we reach a certain threshold in a subgroup. They'll give us information on racial subgroups, special education, or you might hear terms like SPED or SWD, students with disabilities, EL for English language learners, low income. High needs is another subgroup that includes multiple subgroups into that area, and then we do get some information back on gender breakdowns as well. Some of the data that you're going to hear about, we talk about cohorts. When we are looking at things from year to year, we're actually comparing different cohorts. So that's something to keep in mind. And then another term you might hear me reference is called DART, which is our District Analysis Review Tool. And it is a tool that helps us compare ourselves to other districts that have similar demographics as our own. I'm using some information. These slides come from something called Open Architect, which is a tool that we have access to that gives us a lot of information and helps us sort the information in multiple ways. But I like this because I can kind of give you a little tour on a single snapshot and a single slide. So I wanted to start with some areas of strength. And the way I selected the areas of strength, because within each of the areas that I'll talk about, even areas that I've sort of listed as overall areas for growth, there are still stories of celebration within those. But I've picked the areas of strength for the places where we were at or above the state average, as a starting point. So here I've highlighted our strength in science, technology, and engineering. That's the test that's given in grades 5, 8, and 10. Overall, we had when we look at those 3 grade levels together, 43% of our students were meeting or exceeding, which was this past year the same as the state average. We had an average scale score of 494. We don't get an SGP in this one because it's not given year to year. There's a gap, so you can't compare the 5th grade to the kids' scores from 5th grade to 8th grade because there's too much of a gap. When you look at this data, you'll see that generally we've been holding steady in our overall achievement performance across the cohorts for the last 3 years. Some areas to really highlight. are really our 5th grade and our 10th grade scores. We scored, if you look in the bottom right-hand side of the slide there, you'll see the gray is how they scored at the state level, and that sort of teal color is how we scored in Mashpee in that grade level. And you can see that we had real strengths in grades 5 and 10, where we exceeded the state's level for those grade levels. Obviously, in 8th grade, we scored below the state, but that's an area that we're looking at in terms of curriculum and how we can support that grade level going forward. The next one that I wanted to highlight was the civics test. The civics test was the first year, and one of the things that we always want to pay attention to was, and there's always a worry that we're not doing enough social studies. That's obviously, and civics has been an area that has been crying out for attention for a long time. And the nice part about this was that even though the scores were not, outstanding, they were pretty close to where the state was as well. So it lets us know that our starting point is similar to those districts around the state, that we're not far behind in that area, but that we're on par with what's going on in the state. It certainly doesn't mean that that's not an area that we want to grow in or that we want to get better at, but at least we're not behind at the opening of all of this. So, and again, you can see on the right-hand side how we compared in the different categories of government and structures, foundations of government, and rights and responsibilities, that we were really pretty much on par with the state. Again, an area that we'll continue to grow in, because we know that just like all the other districts in the state, this is one of those areas that everybody's going to start taking off on, trying to put more time and attention to, much to the joy of social studies teachers everywhere. So next I want to go into some areas for growth. And again, I picked these areas because we fell below the state average, but there are some things to highlight as successes as well. I picked ELA here as an area for growth because overall our students who are meeting and exceeding are falling at the 37%, or 37% of our students are meeting or exceeding, and that's obviously an area that we want to shore up. The SGP of 49.4 is very close to that 50 that you want, that the kids are making progress in comparison to their peers. But I think overall we're really looking to see a boost in achievement in this area. When we look at the scores overall, we're seeing some challenges, particularly in the areas of writing, and that's something that the teachers have recognized themselves, and we're looking at, you'll see later on in the presentation, some of the ways that that's being addressed right now, as well as plans for the future. So again, some areas that I wanted to highlight, our 4th grade team really put a focus around this last year, and it showed in terms of their outcomes that were above the state. And boy, 10th grade really shined during this test too, and exceeded the state in this particular test. So that is definitely something we want to celebrate and kind of learn from those 2 grade levels about the strategies they were using to meet with success. I'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing with this information as we get further into the presentation. Another area for growth is going to be the area for math. Math presents a similar challenge. We have 35% of our students who are meeting exceeding, with an SGP of 47.9, which is just slightly below the median growth of 50%. Our trend line has been relatively flat over the past 5 years, hovering between 35 and 40% proficiency. And what I think we're most concerned about is the 15 to 18% of students who are not meeting, and that's something that I would like to talk a little bit about in a couple of minutes. Some areas that, again, things to highlight in talking with the math coach, one of the things that they put an emphasis on at KCC last year was really about using the manipulatives in their work, and you can see the outcomes of that from the 3rd grade test, where they were able to exceed the state level. And again, we're going to give it up to MMHS at having a solid performance in 10th grade as well. And again, we're seeing pretty consistent performance right now in the areas of operations that in the strands that you're seeing to your right. So we're not seeing an overall area of significant weakness, but it's just generally we want to see those numbers come up overall. Geometry is always the one that we struggle with because it's the last unit taught, and it's taught after the MCAS is over. So they're really relying on their knowledge base from the previous year to be successful on that next year's test. And it is a perpetual trouble in districts all across the Commonwealth, and because it seems to be the last unit always taught.
May I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So for these previous two, to your point, 5th through 8th seem to have a drop.
Yes.
In the other categories that you haven't listed, do we see that as a trend across those as well, where there's a reduction in the percentile or percentages for those?
So yes, because you're seeing like the overall district in the top right-hand side, some of the grades like 3 and 4 are pulling up the overall scores in these domains. But when you look at that, can you go back one slide, please? If you go back, you can see like the grade by grade breakdown, and you definitely see that although we're hitting a peak in 3rd grade and we hit it again in 10th grade, there is that dip below the state in those middle grades. And so
I think what you'll see in the coming slides speaks more to where those gaps are coming from and the work that we have ahead of us as leaders.
Yeah.
And just a quick question on the math. I mean, we implemented the new math curriculum, this last year was the first full year, or was it 2 years ago?
my understanding is that they've had reveal in the lower grades for the last 4 years.
I think you're thinking of Wonders, the ELA curriculum. I think that.
No, we did math curriculum
Okay.
recently as well, and I want to say it was, do you recall?
I want to say it was during my first year.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 years ago we implemented, at the end of that year,
Yep.
we selected, and I think, so maybe this is year 2 of the new math.
Or some
I got
hands-on.
hands.
for that-
It's 4
It's been
years.
4 years?
Yeah, thank you.
you.
Thank you for,
Okay, thank you.
thank you for supporting me.
Wow,
I was
okay.
saying it's
Yes,
4 years.
Time has just dissipated from my brain apparently.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Yep, no, it's been 4
Math
years
teachers
of
are rolling their
using
fingers up
Reveal.
there. Yeah.
And I'll explain one of the challenges with some of the tools that we're using this right now that we might need to move
Okay.
from, okay?
Well, I just, like I said, looking at the numbers, I'm not looking at overall, I'm looking by grade level.
Yep,
And it does, the numbers for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade compared to 3rd, 4th, and 10th, I mean, they're dramatically different. I mean, there's such a gap between, so where are we falling off?
That's what we're
That's
getting
what we're gonna
to.
talk about
That's what
next.
we're getting to.
Okay.
We'll show you, yes, because
Okay.
what you're looking at right now in these slides is the aggregate. So this is every student that took the test and kind of that average of every student. What we wanted to do was really look at, dig deeper to your point, where are our gaps that we need to work on as leaders to support the teachers in the classroom in meeting the needs of all students to bring those up. And so that's what we're going to share with you tonight. We also just want to point out, and I know Trish was going to say this anyway because we've talked about it, when we are sharing this data, in no way is there any blame anywhere. I want to make that clear from us.
Yeah.
We are looking at numbers.
Yeah.
And we are identifying gaps so that we, as the leadership team, can say, what does everyone need so that we can do better for students? So I just wanted
Yeah,
to,
and-
this is not about any of that.
Yeah,
It may
and-
not- and it may
fingers.
not be, I mean, it may be the students' needs may be different.
Well, again,
Correct.
So-
snapshot.
and,
Yes.
and again, and that's,
Absolutely.
you know, doing this presentation before, having this presentation, I said to them, I'm going to be sharing some information that's going to be hard to hear. And I don't want that to ever be construed with that we don't have amazing teachers who are
Right.
working really hard, that we are, a lot of times some of the things we're looking at are structures and supports for teachers. And so The teachers that I've been meeting during the course, since July have been hardworking, caring, dedicated people. And some of the things that we'll talk about today are structures that have been in place that are getting in the way of the best outcomes for students. And so those are the things that we have to put on the table to discuss. And so like some of the stuff that you're going to see next is going to be hard to see, but it's important to acknowledge it, take a look at it, put it in context, and then make a plan to try and support teachers and students the best way we can. So the next thing that I mention here is, as part of our district plan, we talked about like a mission statement. And even though this is not yet our official mission statement, I kind of jumped the gun. It was one of the ones that one of the groups came to. The idea that, in Mashpee, we're a connected community where we want all students to thrive in whatever way that means for each student. And so one of the things that you have to do when you look at data is you have to ask that question, who's not thriving? Okay? And so to do that, you have to look at what I call as the subgroups and see where there are achievement gaps. And that's where I feel like this is the difficult conversation. So the next slide, if you take a look, this is our special education students, specifically in ELA. And, when we're looking at this data, this is really hard to see. And what this is showing us right now is that our special education students are not thriving. There is a very large achievement gap between students in general education and students in special education for a variety of reasons. And it has been a consistent gap for many years now. And so we have to start asking questions, where are they struggling? What materials, what curriculum, what PD, what personnel do we have to help close this gap and to bring this gap together, so we don't have this large gap between general education and special education students. I know that like Amy Benner, Dr. Benner, who is our lead in special education, she's looking at these things. We are working together. We're setting our goals around it. We're meeting with administration. We're meeting with leads in that department to help identify areas where we can strengthen the systems and the structures. I know you say that phrase.
It's my favorite
it is your
phrase,
favorite
yes.
phrase. But it's true. Where are we finding that there are challenges that are getting in the way? And I'll talk about that in a couple of slides on some of the things that we're seeing. What are we doing about it right now, and what are we looking at for moving forward? You see a similar, if we can go to the next one, you can see a similar gap in math as well. Again, it's remained pretty consistent across the 5-year span that they report. Remember, those are different cohorts each year. But one of the things that I think really what it struck me particularly hard is looking at that lower right-hand side when you're seeing the percentage of students who are meeting or exceeding in math who are identified as special education students, and seeing that right now, or last year, in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th grade, there was not one student in special education who was meeting or exceeding on the MCAS test. And so we really have to acknowledge that and start to think about how do we problem solve to move it forward. We can't go back and change the past, but what are the things that are going to help move the needle on this? And so some of the recommendations you're going to see are going to be connected to that.
Sorry, may I ask one question?
Yes.
So the state data, is that in this comparative group, or is that the?
It is not in this comparative group. That's the state
That's the
average.
average. And do we know, or is there any depth in understanding how other districts, their ELA, their special ed are in comparison to ours?
So we do have that data when it comes to our DART group. And in our DART group, we are among the lower in comparing special ed to special ed.
Okay.
So it's an area of weakness in Mashpee generally, but there are similar gaps in the state between special education and general education. But within our DART group, we are still on the lower end of that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so like if, I'm sorry, if we go to the, thank you, you're seeing me. So again, that same sort of trend that you're seeing like about students who are meeting or exceeding in ELA, you're seeing again that same sort of gap where you have some grades where not any, where there's no student who is meeting that. And in both of the ELA and the math, it's 6% of our special education students who are meeting or exceeding overall in all the tested grades. So it's definitely something that it needs more attention than perhaps it may have had before. But our goals, we're dedicated to try and shifting that and changing that story for our students.
If I can also just chime in here, because you'll notice when we're looking at our English learners, I want us to be mindful of the fact that our coordinator of English language development, who supports teachers in that department, is a full-time teacher. And she's tasked with providing support and professional learning opportunities for teachers across all 3 of our schools. It's impossible. Plus also all the data reporting to DESE, setting up and helping administer the access test. It's very clear the structure is non-existent to support the teachers.
It's not at the level that it needs to be.
Not at the level it needs to be. Yes, I'm sorry, not,
It
Courtney
is-
does an
it
amazing
is
job. I'm
existent.
sorry, it is
Yes, it
existent,
is
but how
existent.
can, as a human
It's not
being who
reasonable.
teaches full-time, yes,
Yeah.
thank you, I apologize. Not
Yeah.
reasonable for a human being.
So again, sorry, just to clarify back on the, well, even in the math one, but you said that over time section on the far left, those are different cohorts each year?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same, so it's taking into account that it's not the same number of students, it's just where they're at percentage-wise.
Correct.
I just wanted to clarify that,
Yep.
because the math one, or the ELA one was a steady decline, which
Yes.
is a little concerning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then another group, as we just heard, was our English language learners. Our English language learners are meeting and exceeding in ELA at 2%. And again, you can see a steady decline in their progress in ELA over the past few years. And again, when you look at that right-hand side, that lower right-hand corner, that's a wake-up call. That's a wake-up call for us as a district, that not about really acknowledging and seeing who's not thriving and making sure that we are elevating their voices, that we are elevating their needs, and we are putting time, energy, and resources into supporting them. Because if we are able to lift our subgroups, our district overall improves. Same story again, or a similar story, I should say, when you look at math. It's not as consistent. It's not a consistent decline. There were some years that were better than others. This group had a 7%. Again, you would understand that there should be higher performance in math if you are a struggling English learner in math than there would be in ELA, just because of the way that one acquires a second language. The test itself is focused on reading and writing, and those are the 2 skills that are one of the last ones acquired by students who are acquiring a new language. So obviously listening and then speaking is the one that comes next. Then reading and then writing is that sort of progression of development. But again, it brings the same alarm bells and need for attention. And so what I want to share with you next are some of the things that are going on right now to help support these things, both at the district level and then at each of the schools. So at the district level, we have been aligning, something that has been new this year is really being very intentional about aligning our district goals to the school improvement plans, to professional goals at all levels. We have a new program this year for mentors for Unit C, which will help develop and strengthen our paraprofessional organizations. And because we know that our paraprofessionals are on the front lines of working with our students with disabilities. We are undergoing a district review to get an outside perspective on not only what is Mashpee doing really well, which there's many things to celebrate, as we heard this, at the beginning of this meeting, but also to give us feedback from an outside organization on where are the things that we should be focusing on and making sure that they are aligning with our own perceptions, but then also getting ideas from outside perspectives on how to go about doing that. We're also engaging in strategic planning this year. We're taking that information from multiple stakeholders, and we are also taking the data. We'll be looking at the data in a way that I think may not have been the case in the past in strategic plans, and using that to drive the decision making. I'm doing my research through Northeastern. This week alone, I've been working with focus groups of parents in special education to find out what are the things that have been working and what has not been working for them as families, elevating their voices so we can actually take their ideas, put them into practice, and make them more consistent across the district instead of it being in pockets. So I'm really excited about the research that I'm doing here because I think it directly ties into the need that we have here at Mashpee.
Can I stop you for
Yes.
1 second? Because I'm sorry, this is heartbreaking. It really is. And as we'll be talking about budget later, maybe we should be looking into, I believe that our special education classrooms are the same size as our regular classrooms. I don't believe there's probably 20 kids in a special education classroom. There's 20 kids in a regular classroom. Maybe that needs to change.
We're
the
going to talk about
structures
some things
of the
about
staffing
that we
for
have
it.
to look at.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know this is hard, and I so appreciate that, but I just want,
But how
the reason I'm showing you this
how
is
can
so
we as a
I can show you how
committee
we're
and
doing
you
it.
got, support our special education teachers, support our paraprofessionals, support our educators that work with these specific groups? Is there not enough of them? Do we
So
have-
if I can kind of go through
Yeah.
what we're doing right now and also like what are we considering for the future, I think the first step is understanding that there is a problem, right? Identifying it, even when it's hard to look at, right? And so I want to be able to be honest and open and transparent with you all to see that we see it too, and we're working to try and shift the narrative, and not just to a better story, but for real change and improvement. Okay. Another thing that is an initiative is I'm really pleased with so far is our partnership with the tribal education community, and that we are working with the special education and our ELD parent groups to try and support their voices. We're doing more intentional PD for our para educators this year. They've had opportunities to meet with Dr. Connors, with Dr. Benner, with myself. They have had more specific PD this year, and that is going to continue throughout the rest of this year as well. At each of the schools, they have goals and initiatives that they're working on this year around these populations. For example, at KCC, we are employing a systematic phonics instruction. Prior to this, what I've understood from talking to special educators and to classroom teachers was that there was a lot of pulling from different resources, particularly in the area of phonics. And this year we're partnering with the University of Florida and their UFly program. And we've had them come up and do the instruction because we know that if we shore up the phonics instruction in the lower grades, we'll see the outcomes in the upper grades. If kids are more fluent readers, they can become more capable writers. So those are things like, even though KCC is not one of those tested grades, there's no testing that happens with MCAS at KCC, but they have a huge hand in it because the third grade test is is 3/4 of it is based on what you've learned in K1 and 2, right? So there's more of an accountability at the primary level. They're improving their data structure. They're actually using STAR at the pre-K level, trying to get a better understanding of where students might be struggling in reading and literacy early on. They're using their collaborative PD time to look at student data. They also have a goal around social emotional focus. You heard that discussion earlier. There needs to be a more solid tier 1 level of instruction. Again, to the point that the team made earlier, is that when kids have good self-regulation and good ability to identify their emotions and manage through it with support at those lower levels, they're more able and open to be ready to learn. They're also working with Allison Mello, who is an expert in math, and trying to help them use skills around differentiation in their math groups. At Quashnet, they are looking at revising their current report card, and you might say, what does the report card have to do with the MCAS? It's really trying to look at how are we tracking student growth and how are we communicating that to families, because I believe that when families have a clear understanding of how their student is doing, they want to help. They want to support their child, and they can't do that if they don't have a clear understanding about the places where they're strong and the places where they need extra support. So we're doing curriculum mapping in there to really clearly identify what standards are being taught when, to make sure that there's nothing that's being overlooked, and that we are really being comprehensive in what is expected at each of the grade levels. I have to say, Elijah Switzer has done a really nice job improving the data culture at the Quashnet School. He has a very clear path of what they are doing at each of their meetings throughout the course of the year. They have MTSS meetings that they have at the grade level, where they're looking at student data and trying to see how to better approach supporting those students. So I think that's a process that has been put in place in the last 2 years that's really going to show, it's already showing improvement in terms of their accountability scores. And, you know, I believe it's only going to get stronger as the teachers practice that more and more. And so kudos to the Quashnet School. They are using their collaborative PD to do that. They also have some very specific goals, again, because the district has had this expectation of having district goals that are connected to school improvement goals, that are connected to teacher goals. One of their big goals was around writing across the curriculum. So the last half day that they had, they actually focused on how to improve writing, not only just in the ELA class, but where are we giving kids the opportunity to practice their writing and build their stamina? Because if you go back into the presentation, you'll see that writing was one of those areas of weakness. So the administration of that school has been very clear that they see that gap and trying to make sure that the teachers are all working as a team to help improve that. They're also mindful of that achievement gap for students with disabilities and students who are English language learners, and they have a focus around visual vocabulary to try and support emerging readers. The math text is very language heavy. How do we use visual vocabulary to help people with an entry point, both students who are coming to a language for the first time, a new language for the first time, but also students with disabilities who may have challenges with reading? How do we use visual vocabulary to support them? It started with a goal in math, and now one of their first PDs was actually how to do that across all subject areas. So now if you go into classrooms in Quashnet, you will see visual vocabulary in a science classroom, in a social studies classroom, in a math classroom, in an ELA classroom. And they are also working with Allison Mello on how to work in small groups in math. At MMHS, it should have had its own tile because it's so enormous, but NEASC. NEASC preparation really drives a lot of the same issues that we're trying to accomplish in the other schools, which is that curriculum mapping, making sure we have a clear scope and sequence. They are, as a school, involved in DESI's redesign cohort around MTSS. and students with disabilities convening, so they have a team that they're sending to that convening. We were able to get the funding for the MyCap planning grant, which helps us to help students starting in earlier grades to think about the outcomes that they want for themselves after graduation, because data shows that when students are starting to think about their strengths and their weaknesses at a younger grades, they have higher outcomes for post-graduation, whether it's in service, the work world, doing internships, or pursuing college education. They are also sending a group to DESE's multi-tiered systems of support redesign cohort, so they're doing both of those. And they're also increasing authentic learning opportunities for students who need those and who learn in other ways, as you saw earlier with the vernal pool. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now that is kind of trying to address and acknowledge some of those achievement gaps. Each of the schools they've all looked at this data, they're all aware of this data, and like you, they're feeling like they want to make strides moving this forward. Some things that that I wanted to make you aware of is that this is really coming across the entire district, and it starts with Dr. Connors and myself and with Dr. Benner. We made our goals focused in these areas. Dr. Connor's goals, she's gonna talk a little bit about those, are about that phonics instruction at the primary level. My goals are around doing an internal audit for our English language development program. We are going to be audited next year, just as a normal cycle. Every 5 years you get audited by the state. So it's not anything bad, it's welcomed, but what we're doing is I'm actually running that audit this year so we can start to put things in place now and grow into next year. So when we have that audit, we're going to be better positioned than we are right now. In special education, obviously, I'm doing my dissertation work around planning and family engagement, and that work will actually have outcomes for our strategic plan and supporting specifically our students with disabilities. And then Dr. Benner is doing a similar audit in special education in advance of their audit next year. So I'll have you talk about your goals.
Yes. So in the data that you see, we know, you can go back, you can go to the next slide. Early literacy and ensuring our youngest, our littlest friends are reading at grade level before they enter third grade is the foundation of ensuring academic success as they grow older. And so my focus is really working with Principal Redmond and her team in strengthening those early literacy outcomes. As we've talked about, my student learning goal is really supporting them in their implementation of UFLY and significantly increasing the percentage of students meeting or exceeding grade level benchmarks in foundational reading skills. You can go to the next slide, Sherry. Some of those actions that I am taking as superintendent, and my goal is to ensure professional learning and coaching for K-2 teachers that is happening on a consistent basis. Overseeing the development of a consistent progress monitoring system, whether we're using Dibble's Start Early Literacy, which is what we are using right now. We're also looking at early literacy opportunities, engaging with the state or other organizations to provide both leadership and educator support. Monitoring that instructional implementation and the student outcomes through data review, and then providing with the updates. And here we are, that initial update. Go to the next slide, Sherry. And so in the fall, which is where we are, is to show you that baseline data collected from early literacy screeners. So we're still working on gathering that data for you, but I will have it for you in January. But in the meantime, Sherry, if you could go to the next slide, what I wanted to share with you is what we have first and foremost for Start Early Literacy. Sorry, I forgot that I did have this slide in here. That's what happens when you're here on a Saturday, digging into all of the the So,
You want that reference?
oh, no, I'm good, thank you, I appreciate it.
No problem.
So what you can see here is the first slice is all of our K through 2 learners who participated in the Start Early Literacy Screener, which is 188 students. Of those 188 students, 45.7%, almost 46%, are proficient, which means they are at or above where they should be. That's wonderful at this point.
At this time of the year.
This time of the year is where they should be. Our students with disabilities, 25 identified as students with disabilities K through 2. Significant gap there, 16%. So what that tells us is, A, we know who those students are. 12 of them are in red, which is the urgent area. 4 of them are in intervention, 5 on watch. Only 4 of those 25 are at or above grade level for this point in time. So what's great about this data is it targets exactly, here's who the students are, and shows us what interventions that they need. For our English learners, 27 students identified as English learners, only 11% are currently at benchmark or at proficient. But again, it shows us, here are the students, here's what we need to do, like here's what, now what. Go ahead, Sherry. So that's just how we're monitoring early literacy. Then we'll put those interventions in place, and with the support that the teachers are receiving in UFly, it will just help strengthen that early literacy. I wanted to, sometimes I get to be the sunshine and not the skunk at the garden party. And so just to give you an update right now as to where we are. So STAR has long been touted as a predictor of MCAS performance. Now, what I do caution you here with STAR reading is it's just reading, not writing, right? And if you were to go back to our slides for ELA, writing is our biggest area for growth. So, for example, if you look at our percentage of proficient students in all students across grades 3 through 10, we're at 51.5% versus 37 on the 2025 MCAS for that same grade span. But again, I caution you, there's no writing here. Writing is our area. For our students with disabilities, 14.7% are demonstrating proficiency. Again, we are recognizing and calling out the significant achievement gap there, but noting that on the MCAS it was only 6% proficiency. But also this shows you where our work is. And for our English learners, 19.2 are proficient at this point in the school year versus 2% on the MCAS. If you go on to math, what did I do with my math slide? There we go. This is a more closely correlated predictor because math is math, unlike STAR reading versus ELA MCAS. So for all students across grades 3 through 10 during our STAR administration, 54.6% of students were proficient versus 35% overall on the 2025 MCAS. Students with disabilities, 14.8 on STAR Math versus 6. So we're making progress. Things are already in place. And 11.4% for STAR Math for our English learners versus only 7% the MCAS. Kathy?
Just to clarify for those who might be new to what STAR Math
Yes.
or STAR assessments are,
Yes.
they're taken throughout the year, right? There's
Yes.
the
3 times a
beginning,
year.
3 times a year,
Yes.
once in the beginning, once
We
mid-year.
administer STAR in the fall, which is our benchmark, so this would be our benchmark. We administer it again mid-year and then at the end of the year, and we compare that data.
So it's
What I
kind of-
really appreciate about STAR data, and I did not do it here, but we will in subsequent presentations, is we can look apples to apples, where with MCAS, when you're looking at those charts, it's apples to oranges, because it's not the same students, right? 8th grade students this year are not the 8th grade students of last year. And so it's a difficult comparison, but where I could look at, of the students who took STAR in the fall and directly compare them to the same students who took STAR in the middle of the year to the end of the year. So you're really getting a true comparison for
And
growth.
the other situation is with the MCAS, those students are now in the next grade
Yeah.
by the time you get the data back, whereas this data, you get it you get it immediately, so you have a better sense of how kids are progressing throughout the year and where your attention needs to shift.
The STAR assessment does provide possible like interventions still.
Absolutely,
So, okay, again,
yes, yes.
more for people who might not know about it, but like when those reports come in and you're comparing that student's growth, like in the benchmark, you might see like maybe try these things. And
Yes, and what I think we need to do more of, to the benefit of our teachers, is providing professional learning opportunities on how to use that STAR Renaissance platform. It will group the students for you. It will point you to the right interventions to use. There's a lot of tools out there that are there to support our teachers, but our teachers need us to support them in using those. And so that's where we're focusing as leaders as well.
And so, we shared with you a lot of things that are going on right now. I want to share with you some of the things that we're already thinking about for future considerations. And this, to your point, Kelly, these are things that we have to talk about with the school committee because they have implications, right? Again, the systems and structures, that one of the key things that stands out to me is the fact that we need to go back to having a win block. It won't look the same as it has in the past, but one of the biggest structural things that gets in the way is that right now, when a student who is on an IEP needs to have service, say they have a challenge in reading, they're removed from their general reading class to go get a different kind of reading. But they're not removed for the entire period. They're removed for a portion of the period. So now we take our student who has struggled in that area and put them back in the middle of a class where they've missed the instruction at the beginning of the class. And they're missing the access to the grade level curriculum in the meantime. Yes, they're getting work on the area that they need support in, but we need to find a time period during the day where they're not going to miss core instruction in order to get that support. The same for our students who need pull-out services, who are our English language learners. We do have some good push-in services for our students who are English language learners, but sometimes they need specific instruction that needs to come separately from the class, and right now they're missing the class in order to do that. And so a win block, again, may look different than it has in the past, but having that structure in place would be really, really helpful. The other piece to that win block is that right now we have Title I supports or reading intervention supports. Again, they get pulled out of class for it. We don't actually have math intervention supports, which is something that we have to really think about because our math area is an area that we need to address, not just for our students who are on IAPs, but for all of our students who may be in that bubble that is in that needs improvement area, that by just getting a little bit of shoring up, they could cross into that meeting section. We need to look at instructional models. One such instructional model, I'm not saying that this would be the one that we would go with, but a co-teaching model might be something that we have to consider. I'm not in charge of special education, but I've implemented co-teaching in my previous school, and I know that is an important strategy that can be really beneficial to students. I also think trying to utilize our coaches in a way that they're helping work with teachers on looking at individual student data and helping them make individual student plans is an important consideration moving forward. We do have a couple of really talented coaches who have wonderful relationships with their teachers, and then how can we utilize them in a way that supports teachers in looking at data? Because when I went through my teacher training, that was not part of my teacher training. We expect that of teachers, but we need to give teachers support to do that. The standards-based report card revision is going to be an important piece to look at, and as well as protocols in special education and the protocols that we have in the ELD department. In special education, the IEP process was revised at the state level last year. Really, it was at the tail end of the previous year, but for most districts, their implementation of it was last year. But that obviously needs more support because that's still in a relatively new period, and trying to support team chairs, to support special educators, and to support the teachers who are attending those meetings in the Bloom method is going to be important professional development. Onboarding PD, some of the work that I'm doing with my research hopefully will have implications for how do we help support new teachers coming on board and working specifically with students who have disabilities and students who are English language learners. In addition, we have a wonderful mentor program and some great mentors that are in the building, but trying to really specialize some of those areas that we have for our subgroups who are not thriving. And looking at instructional models for professional development as well in special education. Really shoring up our para PD is going to be really important, because in many cases our paras are spending a lot of time working with students with disabilities under the instruction of the special educator, but we really need to invest in them. We really need to invest in solid professional development for them. And we have ITLs, which are instructional team leaders, but how can we maximize their expertise in being the leads on their grade level to help support their colleagues at the team level. In the English language department, right now, thanks to Dr. Connors, I've made a great friend at DESE who has blown my mind and has taught me so much already. As you had heard, we have a teacher who leads that department while teaching full-time. She's out on maternity leave, and so I've taken over many of her responsibilities to make sure that that a lot of the requirements are getting taken care of. And so that's why we're doing the DESE audit as part of my goals, to really make sure that that is being taken care of in her absence. We're trying to increase our LPAC. That's a small group right now that we'd really like to see grow. And trying to find high quality instructional materials for our ELD department, particularly at the high school level. There's definitely not a lot of materials for that, and we're trying to look at how do we develop the courses at the high school level to really support the students in their language development while also teaching them grade level expectations. It's a challenge. And then in terms of curriculum, trying to make sure we have a strong behavioral health team at KCC. You might have noticed on the slides that was one school that did not have a behavioral health team, so that's part of what they're working on now. We're considering ruler implementation at the high school. Ms. Brady and I attended the NEASC conference where we had an opportunity to meet with some folks from Ruler, and we're following up with that as a potential support for our students at the middle high school. Looking at more high-quality curriculum adoption, that is going to be a financial piece that we'll have to stagger out and plan with your support over time. Adaptive tools, I talked a little bit when we were looking at the math slide, saying that, right now we use ST Math, which the kids love, and it has a lot of great advantages to it, but what it doesn't have is it's not adaptive. And so there are tools out there right now, like in the Reveal program we have, that are adaptive, but we haven't taught our teachers how to use them. And so we have to teach our teachers how to use them and how to make the most of them, so we can look at the data, target the area the student needs support in to help support their growth at an individual student level. And then again, I mentioned math intervention because it is an area that we don't have right now. And I think that's where I come to a close. Yes, you can take
Just-
that slide off.
Does anybody have any comments, questions?
I have both.
I don't.
Sure.
Who wants to start?
Taking the loud one.
Go, Dan.
I guess a quick question. So not that we need to disclose numbers, but how many students, or what is our sense of students who are both ELL and may have special education needs? Is there an overflow?
There is an
Elsewhere,
overlap.
there is,
Overlap,
yeah.
excuse me, thank you.
It is a smaller number.
Very small.
One of the things that I've been really pleased with since kind of overseeing that department, a lot of times what you'll find as a challenge for families who have students who are learning a second language is that oftentimes they are not getting access or support if they have specific learning disabilities, and sometimes that drags on for years and years. This district has been very good about trying to make sure students, if they need both, are getting both, which I've been really pleased to see that has not been the barrier that I've seen in other districts. But there is a small population that crosses into both categories.
Okay, and then from an ELL perspective, I'm happy to see that there's a desire to increase the LPAC engagement. But I think one thing, being a person who grew up in a household where English was not primary, one family member who's illiterate in all languages and the other who learned how to read and write through my education, is that being able to reinforce what's happening in school is really challenging for
Yeah.
families.
Yeah.
So, not that this is something that we can per se control, but being able to create community to help support that as well, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Because we see the gains of having what's taught in the school translate out into, home environment. And I think we live in a community where we don't have an established, large, interactive community of, similar language families that are
Yeah.
supporting one another, unlike greater city,
Right.
Yeah, and it has been a difficult lift to try and get that group to expand. A lot of it has to do with political climate too, and parents not wanting to come out to face-to-face meetings. So we've been doing those on Zoom calls to make them more accessible for people. But, we have we have 3 lovely women who are really been great in terms of connecting with the community behind the scenes, even though they may not be coming to LPAC meetings.
Thank you.
Sure.
Brian?
None at this time.
Okay, Kelly?
I'm-
I just had one quick one, and perhaps our teachers who are in the back might remember, but I know in 2021, 2022, we had the author of the ruler,
Mark Brackett.
yeah, I believe he came and spoke
He
at
did.
one of our convocations, if I'm remembering
did.
correct. Okay.
Yeah, I saw him
So,
on some
yeah.
past notices that I
Yeah,
read.
so, I guess I'm just intrigued that, I know we were hoping to use it, but then we switched at some point, so you're looking to bring that back, which.
Yeah, one of the things that I've seen, kind of like reviewing records as part of my onboarding, is that we have had some amazing thought partners come to this district. I mean, incredible thought leaders in education have come to Mashpee to present, which has been amazing. But what I think has been an unfortunate barrier is the changeover in leadership. It's very hard to make traction and to build consistency when you have so much changeover in leadership. I'm really excited that we have a team that's really excited to be here and are dedicated to staying and building that support network for teachers and helping to, keep momentum going for the things that teachers have been telling their administrators that there are needs. This isn't lost on the teachers, they're aware of this, but it's really hard to make traction when you don't have the leadership to support you. So I'm really excited that we have this team that is energized and that we have leaders who are coming back and ready to take on the challenges and love Mashpee. Like, we're so grateful to be here. We are so, like we talk about it in our admin meetings, we are so grateful to be part of Mashpee. And we know that there is great work to be done here and that the district is primed to do that. There's so many good foundational pieces that are available to Mashpee that are not available in other districts. And so I know that with the consistency of support for teachers and the consistency of staying on message and that reliability will only help us grow to a fuller potential.
Well, thank you for that very detailed look at our MCAS situation and what we're doing to start closing some of those gaps. I appreciate it, and I think I can speak for all of us here that we're grateful that it seems like we're really forming a very solid plan to move forward, and yeah, looking forward to the next update. Okay. Dr.
right.
Connors, do you have a little bit more to?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll make this quick. So I wanted to backtrack a little at our November meeting. I always greatly appreciate that the enterprise is here, and I do like that everything that you're putting out and all the positive press that we're getting. Our students, our teachers are featured in the paper. And I'm cognizant that when I sit at school committee and I report, I'm only speaking about Mashpee. And after the November meeting, there was a discussion, because we did talk about a decline in enrollment in Mashpee Public Schools. But it caused quite a stir among our community, with a lot of speculation as to why families and students are leaving Mashpee Public Schools. And so I needed to correct the record, if you will, and talk about the story of declining enrollment across the Cape. Because it's not just happening in Mashpee Public Schools. It's not because there's something wrong with Mashpee Public Schools. In fact, it's just the opposite. And so what I did here, and I don't want to name districts because it's not my story to tell, but I did an analysis of kind of a shift over time in enrollment in Cape Cod districts from the school year 2020 to school year 2025, so through last year. And you'll see that other districts have a greater decrease over time than Mashpee Public Schools. So I just wanted to reassure our community, there is nothing wrong with Mashpee. There are great things happening here. And so I just always want us to use some caution when interpreting declining enrollment. So while this does show a decline over time, I also want to point out another example. Not yet, Sherry, sorry. That's okay. I know, sorry. So in 2020, the percentage of English learners, for example, enrolled in Mashpee Public Schools was 4.5%. Now at that time, given the DESE data, our enrollment was 1,468 students. So 4.5% of that enrollment is 66 students across pre-K to 12. English learners in Mashpee Public Schools. You fast forward to last year, the percentage has gone from 4.5% to 7.4%. That's 101 students. That's a significant increase in the number of English learners in a district as small as Mashpee. And so when we look at that data that you just reviewed, and you think about our systems and structures, we can do better for our students by having the right systems and structures in place. So just to give you that example, while enrollment may be declining, the needs of those students who are in our district are increasing. And we have to be mindful of that, not just those numbers. So just wanted to point that out. Go ahead, Sherry, thank you. And so here, again, just clarifying school choice. It's not this mass exodus as people may think. That are leaving Mashpee Public Schools. So if you'll look, this is just DESE data from last school year. The districts on the left-hand side of the screen that are highlighted in red, Barnstable, Falmouth, and Sandwich. Those are the highest receivers of Mashpee resident students. The 0.1 or the decimals, it's the time of year that they go. So just to give you an idea. So 91.8, so 92 students roughly, left Mashpee Public Schools in FY25 to go to other districts. That same year, 96 students came into Mashpee from those same districts, Barnstable, Falmouth, and Sandwich. And so it's almost like, you know, it's like the trading game. And so I want us to just always be very cautious when we talk about declining enrollment, when we talk about the impact of school choice, which we'll get into on the budgetary side in a little bit. You have asked before, and I credit Sherry and team for the incredible job done with enrollment tracking. I kind of had this, Sherry, is there a way? And it wasn't even 5 minutes, and I had graphs and spreadsheets, and it's amazing. So I want to thank Sherry. And while we have this data, you can see here, reasons for student withdrawals. We've talked about why are students leaving Mashpee Public Schools. You'll notice that there's a wide variety. That other districts, that 35%, that's what we really need to hone in on, is why are families choicing out of Mashpee? Not maybe that they're choosing a private school. I think that's a different conversation. Private schools offer some things that public schools cannot. moving out of state, out of country, homeschooling, virtual, Upper Cape, I think those reasons are pretty self-explanatory. But I do think we need to dig a little deeper into that 35% and why they're choicing out.
Dr. Connors, do we
Yes.
know if that 35% are being retained on Cape or if they're leaving Cape in general?
That's what we have to, that's what we're not sure. If
Okay.
they are choicing out to surrounding or if they are moving off Cape. That's what we need to dig deeper into that 35%.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And even looking at withdrawals by school, it's not a mass exodus in grade 8 to grade 9 either, as you see. 3, 4, these are the withdrawals by grade level. While more happen at MMHS, that also makes sense because there's more choice in those upper grades. But also, it's important to note in 2024, we had a total of 32 students leave us for Cape Cod Tech, Upper Cape Tech, or Sturgis. In 2025, that number dropped to 21. And so there's a reduction there also, which is important. Again, just to show you the phenomenal enrollment tracking that is done here. I did remove student names, but you can see we keep the date, the grade, the school, whether they're enrolling, that's the the left-hand table, or they're withdrawing, and the reason for their withdrawal. And also general ed, special education, English learner, 504, and if there's school choice. So we're really, that was just more meant as a visual. We're not, Sherry will we'll get the slide deck to you, but you can dig a little more deeply. And I wanted to share this, Consuelo shared this with us. This was in also the Mashpee Enterprise. I can't, again, thank you all enough because you're constantly highlighting the amazing things happening in Mashpee. But this is what student Daniel Alade had to say about.
His name's Daniel Alade.
Alade, thank you, my apologies.
And I believe his mother's here
His
right
mother
now.
was like,
Is Daniel? Oh, well, surprise!
Well, you're here, so I just wanted to acknowledge you because you're in the room. so.
Yeah, well, thank you.
To it, it bothers me not.
And I apologize for
Right,
the
half the time.
mispronunciation.
That is so funny.
But some of the things that Daniel likes most about Mashpee Middle High School, and these I think are absolutely, in my experience, just being here since July, I see this too. The people, the athletics, the programs, the opportunities that we offer to our students. I absolutely agree. Mashpee has some of the most upstanding people on Cape Cod, just in my short time here. Kindness, character. I love how the school always has ways for you to thrive academically, from having good teachers and resources such as guidance counselors always at your disposal to help with anything needed. That is a perfect summary of what Mashpee Public Schools offers. So tell Daniel he got a shout out. He can go watch it on YouTube. Tell him to go about 3 hours in though, because it's better.
We're getting there.
Yeah, I know. So I just wanted to kind of clarify some of that declining enrollment in Mashpee for members of our community to kind of reduce that speculation that it's not just a Mashpee issue, it is across the Cape.
And to follow up on that, I believe this week isn't the Cape and Islands Municipal Leaders Association meeting with the superintendents of the Cape to discuss
Yes.
that as well. I think that's their meeting topic for this. So like even at the select board levels across the Cape,
Right.
there's collaboration starting to happen to discuss
Absolutely.
these
'Cause
factors that are causing the declining enrollment. So
Yeah.
And I wonder if another helpful thing to do would be to talk with our kids, to talk with our students, and say, hey, if you were ever to leave, what would be those reasons that you would leave for?
Absolutely.
And get their input on it, because you're gonna probably get different answers from every single child that you talk to.
Of course.
But to try to find that community, that cumulative, like, okay, what do we need to improve on? To, okay, we had 38 kids come from different districts, but we also had 38 kids leave.
Right.
How do we get our 38 kids that left to stay along
Exactly.
with those 38 kids?
Yes.
That were already, that are coming?
Right.
And talking to them and say, what are you guys' advice for, their voices are tremendous in our
I
lives.
agree, yes.
And try to get, their light into things.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm gonna skip through, just in the interest of time, and just jump to a couple of quick updates. Strategic planning updates, stakeholder surveys went out tonight, this afternoon. Yay! So we're getting there. Our next strategic planning committee meeting is January 8th, where we hope to review data, certainly from the surveys, from the focus groups, which is a good segue into district review. I got the update from the AIR team that the report is at Desi for first round of edits. So I did ask who I could nudge at Desi to kind of move it along a little faster. They didn't reply to my email. So, but they know that we're on a timeline. They've been very good about working with us and get it back to us. So as soon as that report is ready, we will certainly get it to you all. The Strategic Planning Committee, we are working on a broad professional development in March for the entire staff of Mashpee Public Schools to really share the results and do some cross-district work on the district review findings. And the Route 130 road work, if you aren't aware. Those
You will
messages,
be.
you will be, those messages are going out also. And I joke and I laugh about it because that's all that we can do right now because we are very concerned. DPW has been amazing. The contractors who are working have been amazing. We have had informational meetings. I did ask them at the last, yes. The downside of that, which I'm happy about, but the downside is, we all know it gets dark earlier. The construction won't wrap up till 5:30, so our afternoon bus routes will be significantly impacted in terms of drop-off time. So Margaret and Monica and Lisa and the collaborative have been phenomenal in really working down to dotting every I and crossing every T to let families know about all the changes to the best of our ability with maps and broad emails to everyone, specific emails to individual families.
And it will change every 3 weeks.
It will change every 3 weeks.
So we will continue with that.
Yeah. So.
Let's emphasize Margaret and
Yes.
Lisa. Because Margaret has been nonstop the last 2 days working out with these.
And I was surprised to
Amazing.
see her when I came in for the meeting tonight. I was like, what are you doing
I know,
here?
and I've asked her that too. I'm like, I'm not saying I don't want
No,
you
I
here.
know.
I just want you to be like you're here.
Yeah, yeah.
You're here. So she is amazing.
she has.
The whole team is amazing.
No, the
So.
communication that went out and what's on the website right now, I think is very informative. And, I think if you have questions, if you're a family that lives in that area and you have questions, the website does have very comprehensive information and I appreciated that. So I noticed it today when I was looking for
Good.
something and there it was.
And there's a link
Yes.
to
Yes.
the website and how the construction
Yes.
is moving throughout.
Yes.
And there are maps on the sewers website. So.
Yes. We're
Yes.
trying.
But hey, clean water, so
There
let's
you
take
go.
it.
Right. Yes. All right. I'll now turn it over to our wonderful Director of Finance, Monica De La Hoya.
My turn. I'll be quick. If you look at the first page, we have had a couple of changes on where we are in the red. Don't get too excited. Curriculum, as we know, we've got technology there that will be covered by school choice. We have out of district is in the black, but that is missing one student that started actually today. So next time we will be in the red. The other reason why it's in the black right now is because it was, the circuit breaker is covering around $500,000 of our out of districts, and that was posted by the town, so that's why that is in the black as well. The phone, I was looking at previous years, and we've kind of always been budgeting between 140 and 150. It never covers. But I got Sean Maroney from Technology. He already mentioned that we are closing out now in November the previous vendor for our phone systems. And so it's not gonna necessarily turn black, but we will transfer money into that account at some point next year, early next year. So we stop being in the red there. Our revolving accounts. I don't know if you have any questions there. School choice, we are continuing to pay the HVAC. That balance that we have there still has some, it'll go down more because there's some other encumbrances that haven't been finalized. Food service is in the negative, but we are missing the October and the November claims. The October claim, I believe, is already here, but it hasn't been posted. And then November was claimed at the beginning of December, which will cover the negative that we have so far.
Okay.
And school choice, if you take a look at the very bottom, it says we have 2.1. There's around $450,000 in encumbrances that still need to be paid out, so that will decrease. Questions?
I'll save mine for our next thing on the finance working group.
Okay.
Any other questions for Monica from the budget?
Okay.
Okay. All right. So next on the agenda, we have subcommittee reports. I believe the finance working group was the only subcommittee to meet since our last meeting, which was myself and Brian, along with Dr. Connors, Ms. Hill, Finance Director De La Hoya, and I think Dr. Benners was also in attendance for that one. And I think it was very productive. I think one of the things which we just talked about with the transportation, and I don't know if it's okay for me to mention this, but I don't know if you've made any traction with going to the town about that potential increased cost on transportation. Have we done any of?
For the construction,
Yeah, for the potential extra hours.
what I wanted to see if we could
Okay.
get
Yep.
into that when we present next week.
Okay, that's fine. Nope, okay, so there are some potential costs that might come up from this construction. I guess I
Yes.
just want people to be
Yes.
aware that we are aware. We got a kind of estimate, Brian and I, at the meeting, and I think, we'll hear more about that next week then. Okay, and then the other, major drivers, I guess we just talked about the major drivers for the budget, which is kind of our next thing, so I don't know if you want to go into that. I mean,
Happy
unless
to.
you all have something to add to that, I feel like it was a productive meeting. Brian, you have anything to add?
I was late, sorry.
That's okay. We were there. You were there.
You were there.
Yeah, I caught the tail
You
end.
got the
We
recap?
weren't gonna call you out, right?
Yeah, I was trying to.
So you're saying an increase for the, like, a substantial increase? Or?
We don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
But there's a
because-
possible.
Yes. We need to see the first week,
Yep.
how the afternoon.
What the impact is.
Yeah,
This
so
is
it's
the dropping
overtime,
off of
the
the
routes are
students,
gonna
if
be
that's-
longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
So-
it, yes.
So yeah,
So we kind of have a figure based on if it goes 1 hour.
Yeah,
Like,
okay.
It's, right now, it's like kind of pie in the sky until we see what goes on next week.
but it's not gonna come out of left field on us, I guess is what I wanted us to know, is
Right.
that this was something that they at the administration level talked about and brought to the subcommittee meeting for us to consider in the budgeting process.
Now, are we running into the same problem with the construction on 151 in the afternoon with the buses running overtime from what?
Not
I-
right now.
No,
Not right now,
by
but
the time, they're usually cleared up by then.
And I
Yes.
think like the construction on 130 is gonna be a little bit more substantial than what's been done on 151, and the impact to traffic is gonna be a little bit more significant from what I understand of the project.
If you look at the map.
Yeah.
A lot of, from the lights of the town, more or less,
It's-
all
yeah.
the way after South Sandwich,
It's
that's gonna be closed.
Center Street to Couture Road, so it's that
Oh, I know,
section.
right in the middle
yeah.
of where we live.
Exactly.
So
At least the
Great
three
Neck,
of us.
everything that happens in
Yeah.
Great Neck will be sent over to 28.
Yeah.
And so that is, yeah.
Again,
And the traffic is gonna be.
If we'll get an update later, I just wanted all of us to know that, yes, we are aware there is a potential. Do we have that figure yet? No, but it is on, in the minds.
It's there.
So,
Okay.
sorry, that being
Thank you.
said, sorry if I jumped the gun, I didn't mean to, I just,
No, no,
that was something that was, as we talked about transportation. All right, Dr. Connors.
Okay, and so this slide is a repeat of just showing it again, that these remain kind of our 7 drivers, our 7 guiding principles in developing this budget. And I did include those in the budget narrative that you have. And that as we work on these numbers and reallocating resources, students are first and foremost always. And then in order to support students, it comes down to our staff. And so that's why you see those items as 1 and 2. And then the rest, just talking about high-quality instruction, core operating capacity. We recognize our significant increase in out-of-district placement costs, the impact of school choice tuition because of how maybe it was utilized or relied upon in the past, and those resources maybe not being as abundant as before. And, maybe ensuring fiscal responsibility should be first, but all of that, I kind of look at that as the foundation of all of the work above it to meet student needs. And so before we really get into the details of this, I want to really acknowledge the significant increase in our request compared to previous years. As you see, for FY27, our projected increase or over last year is 8.38%. When the previous 3 years has been closer to 4, right around or just under 4. There are two significant reasons for that, and I had Monica check my, because I'm a history teacher math person, not a finance director, so I said I could rationalize my way out of paper bag. So let me make sure I'm rationalizing these numbers properly. So bear with me as I break this down for you. So two significant areas that have led to this 8.38% increase in asking. Our known out-of-district amount that we know we have to pay, we're committed to next year, is almost $500,000. Is an almost $500,000 increase in our budget, just our knowns over last year. Add the probable out-of-district costs. So that probable has never been in a budget before. We are gambling on that and saying we think they may happen, so we'd rather budget for it. To me, that just makes sense. That's an additional $600,000. So right there, you're almost at $1.1 million over last year's budget, just in out of district. We'll go deeper into that on slide 28. Additionally, in FY26, the current year we're operating in, the paraprofessional line items were budgeted at a total of $1.8 million. Great. The contract, though, was settled in May. The budget had already been approved, it had already been finalized. As a result, our projected actuals for those line items is $2.2 million. Almost $400,000 over budget. We'll cover it. I don't want anybody thinking, the sky is falling. I don't want that to be out there, but just giving you that idea that our budget looks so much like we're asking for so much more, but for very specific reasons that we can identify. So we budgeted this year for FY27 based on the actuals of FY26. So that ask is $500,000 over, and we can examine that further on slide 29. So I just wanted to call that out. If not for those two significant areas of increase, based on kind of the budgeting, and Monica kind of laughed at my math a little, but she said it does make sense. We would theoretically only be asking for a budget that's only 2.1% over. So it looks atrocious, and we are prepared to, when we present to the town, to really break it down, because we can account for every cent of it. All right, thank you, Sherry. Next slide. So these are just the side-by-side visuals. You can see there's not a significant increase in our operating expenses, 5.8 to 6.5. I mean, it is 1.3, but there's your out-of-district increase in terms of operating expenses. Go ahead, Sherry. And then this just breaks down how those operating expenses are with line items. And you can see out-of-district tuitions for FY26 was 20%. Out-of-district for FY27 is 33%.
Let me just comment.
Yes,
that
please.
We tried to reduce everywhere in every line that didn't impact instruction.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, just for those wondering too, like when we had finance working group meetings or subcommittee meetings, we did talk about, keeping the, having that potential need. And I know at one point we talked about, instead of 8, what would it look like at 6? So we did look at, and we do have those figures that we looked at, but I mean, you're still, the fact that potential can be linked to students, I felt was defensible on our part in terms of the ask, because, looking at the historical line item for that out of district, I mean, we historically have had to do a transfer to cover those
Right.
expenses, those operating expenses. So rather than doing the transfer, in the work in the subcommittee, I think we all agreed that it made more sense to budget a little bit more fiscally conservative, so to speak, and try our best to capture those potentials so that it doesn't become, oh no, do we have it in school choice? Because we are using the majority of school choice for the HVAC project. So rather than deplete what little we will have left in school choice, this was kind of, we knew this was coming when we approved the HVAC program, and here we are, 2027, we knew this was gonna hit, and this is kind of what it looks like, and I guess I just wanna remind that historical piece of it, because it does look a little like, ugh, but we can tie it to actual students that potentially may need those out-of-district services, and in order to make sure those students are getting what they need, I think we need to prepare for that. And again, you know, if we don't hit that, you know, say we do budget, I mean, then we'll be able, I'm not saying we want to pad anything, because we're not, it's just, we're just trying to be anticipatory of potential costs and not put the district in a spot where we're kind of going, oh, we've got,
Right.
you know, because we don't know who's moving. That's that one variable line item that you don't know who's coming, who's going. Students move into the district, students move out. It's kind of that moving target. So I guess I just wanted to, for us, for the public, everybody to understand that number isn't just arbitrary. Like we did talk about different possibilities, what different numbers looked like, but that 20, what is it, 20, sorry, I'm going to the eye doctor soon.
20%.
20% to 33.
Yes.
You know, that it looks hefty, but I think our discussions over the meetings of the subcommittee really, I think, made a strong argument of why, and why that's something we as a committee need to really consider, and as a district, so, sorry.
And if I can add, this is the year, I guess, that we are looking into doing this, because if, let's say, best case scenario, the probables don't happen. We have the newly approved
Reserve.
account for special education, stabilization account, which right now has 0. So best case scenario, it doesn't happen, then we're able to put something in that account, and then in future years, we don't have to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we'll have the what if
We'll
fund
have
Yes.
that.
that was established at town
But right
meeting.
now, we don't have a
Exactly.
what if.
Right.
Yep. And again, we knew this was coming when we approved the HVAC project, so here we are.
Yep. All right, so this just details, the slide 26 that I mentioned, just details. If you look at the FY '26 budget for out-of-district at $1,061,536, our proposed FY '27 budget is $2.1 million. And then breaking it down further, our knowns are 1.5, which is still $500,000, $500,000 over the FY '26 budget, and our probables. And so that just really breaks it down. We are committed to being very transparent. And to to Chair Lewis's point, we do have names of probable students. We're not just padding or estimating. We would never share those names, but we could share the list, like we did at FinCom when we asked for the reserve fund. So it is tied. Personnel expenses, as you can see, FY '26, 21.5 million versus 23.5. I think I need to go to the eye doctor too. It's right in front of me. Yes, 23.5. And again, what you see there in that big jump, it's okay, Sherry, you can go to the next one, is really, as I mentioned, Unit C. And those raises are 1,000 million times % deserved. That's not my point. My point is, in an FY '26 budget that it wasn't budgeted for, we are paying for that and trying to budget based on actuals, and so that we are well situated. Here's really to give you that breakdown, as I mentioned. The FY '26, they budgeted 1.8 million for Unit C paras. The actuals that we're projecting based on people who are working, who are on staff, is 2.2. That's a deficit of almost $400,000. And so we are we budgeted off of actuals with an increase because of contractual obligations. It only makes sense.
And Dr. Connors?
Yes, sir.
So one thing that we've talked about for years has been around retention of qualified staff.
Yes.
You know, my sense is that we are, knock on wood, in a really good place where we've retained those individuals, which I think part of negotiation and contracts
Yes.
is related to keeping really well-intended
Absolutely.
and educated educators. So I think that at the end of the day, just putting out there, this has supported us in being able to provide that level of instruction to our students, so.
Absolutely.
Very necessary.
And I think what we saw today too, in the data, meeting the needs of our students with disabilities and our English language learners, starts with us as leaders in a school committee supporting teachers and paraprofessionals in doing that work. And we need to invest in the adults if we are truly committed to meeting the needs of our students. And this is a clear example of that. And then just, because I love visuals and colors, and so just, you can tell, like, the comparison, I just like to be very transparent. We're not trying to pad anything, we're not trying to stock anything away. We're basing our budget on actuals, contractual obligations, projections that are known to us. School choice, you've seen this before, very clear that our receiving and sending numbers are equaling. Also important to note that we may lose students who don't have an increment tied to them, meaning they're not an English learner, they're not a student with disabilities, but we may receive those students who have greater needs. So that enrollment is a slippery slope. I also wanted to point out revenue versus expenditures of school choice over the years. We're looking at facing a balance of 1.1 million in school choice from a high of 4 million at one point. A lot of that is HVAC, but I think it's also been used in different areas, and we just can't rely on that anymore. All right. Is that it? Oh, enrollment trends, again, just to show. It's a slow decline over time, but the needs of the students we serve are increasing. Okay.
Kelly, we'll start with you.
Questions?
You have any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Brian?
Just a comment on page 6. My term expires in 2027, so you guys are stuck with me a little while
I'm
longer.
sorry, Brian,
You
that's
just
on
gotta
me.
you just gotta swap
Dan,
Danny
and
and
yeah, I
I.
was gonna say Dan's the 2027.
That's my fault. In
It's
trying
okay.
to get all these pictures in the right place,
okay.
it shifted. All right, thank you,
We won't
Brian.
even go to the pictures. The pictures from when I was like a teenager.
I was gonna
probably still
say,
in high
should we take a
school,
new?
so.
Well, I had to do that because I didn't have an
Yeah.
updated photo.
I'll
so
send you a
Professional
picture.
headshots?
We can get professional
Is that in the
headshots.
budget, Monica? Professional headshots?
No, but I have it on my
I will
phone.
say there's a plug for going to the conference. They do free headshots at the conferences, just in case.
Have you seen that? Well, there's also AI headshots.
Oh yeah, those are
Yes.
crazy.
Yes, we know.
Okay, that being said, thank you very much for the presentation, Dr. Connors, and just in case anybody's curious, I unfortunately am not going to be able to attend on the 17th at the town presentation. If any of
Understandable.
you would like to go and support the administrative team, that is the day they are presenting this budget to the town manager, the little group of town manager, finance committee, select board. But yes.
So check on us afterwards, please.
Yes, please.
Just check in and see how we're doing.
You guys okay?
So, yeah, that being said, any unfinished business or anything we need to talk about further? Hearing nothing, I will take that final motion of the night, please.
Motion to adjourn at 8:12 p.m.
Second.
Thank you. Hearing no discussion on that. Dan, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
And I am a yes. We are adjourned at 8:12 p.m.
All right, thank you all so much.